Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Monday, October 7th, 2024, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $, ORION-NWSF, or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got Monday Night Football, the Nolens Saints versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Kickoff is going to be here in roughly 15 minutes. So get your popcorn, get your snacks, get all of your beverages ready, and we are going to have a showdown between Carr and Mahomes here in about 15 minutes. Now let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and we'll get into the pregame show, and we'll get obviously started here sooner than later. Let's get it, baby. Happy Monday, everyone. And on the thumb, on the left, we have one of my favorites in the league, AK-41, the alien, Alvin Kamara, representing the Nolens Saints. And on the right, the best quarterback in the land, Patrick the Clone Mahomes. Now, he may not be playing the best, quarterback play, but as far as, the skill set that he has, we know he's at the top. But this season, if we're actually going off stats, there's quite a few others that are trying to be able to take his spot. But again, if it comes down to the awards and the Super Bowl championships, no one is on his level, besides a guy maybe that's retired now like Tom Brady. But when you're looking at some of the other individuals like Baker Mayfield, right? Sam Darnold, even though he had a little bit of a rough matchup against the Jets. Lamar, obviously, this weekend was great against the Bengals. Jayden Daniels has been doing some amazing things. So, again, for the first 5 weeks, Patrick Mahomes definitely isn't the best quarterback statistically. But we do know, anytime it ends up being on prime time, usually the best version of Pat will come alive. But also remember, the Kansas City Chiefs have had quite a few injuries. Some people say they got the ref in the back pocket. That may or may not be true, but there definitely is a lot of questionable calls with PIs and obviously calls, that are not made that end up, leading to a Chiefs victory. So, I get it. It definitely seems a little suspect at times, but no Isaiah Pacheco, no Rashee Rice. And those are the two best players on the offense, not named Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. So when you don't have, your star running back who kind of felt like he was a top 10 running back in the NFL in Isaiah Pacheco, if he wasn't top 10, no lower than top 12. And Rashee Rice was playing like a top 3, top 4 wide receiver. So there's not very many teams that can lose a top 10 running back, a top 5 receiver, and still stay afloat. Now, we already know Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes will, get the ball distributed to many other individuals, whether that's Noah Gray or Justin Watson. There will be others, Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll see where, the football ends up. But the main guy that should benefit from the injuries to Rice and Pacheco is going to be that rookie, Xavier Worthy. So we saw him get 2 tutties, obviously in week 1, and has been a little quiet since then. This is his opportunity to shine, to be the number 1 option for Patrick Mahomes. Now it's just up to the OC and the offense to see if that can really happen tonight. Let's go, baby. I'm ready. Odin in the building. What's good? Cole in the building. What's good? And I noticed it's only going to be a 2-hour show. Things are definitely changing in the landscape of, not only Raw, but I think wrestling in general. You're going to see a lot more TV deals. You're going to see a lot more streaming deals. You're going to see other networks be a part of AEW and WWE. Bad Blood was great, considering it was kind of a filler pay-per-view. I saw all the staples that Drew McIntyre had. We have a little bit of a KO heel turn on Cody Rhodes, obviously with the fans getting everything kind of synced up from their cameras and their phones. So I'm definitely excited to be able to see what is going to happen on Raw tonight. And maybe let me take a quick peek here. Should I watch Monday Night Raw at the same time? Is it on right now? Yeah, it's on right now. All right, I got Raw on also. So I got the Connect, so I can watch Raw now on the West Coast just at the same time as everybody else in the Midwest and the East Coast. So I got obviously we know we got some baseball on later today as well. I believe it's the Royals and Yankees are on in a little bit, so I might have to turn that one on also. But I got Monday Night Raw on for all the wrestling fans, as well as we got the Saints and Chiefs, and then I might end up turning on the Royals Yankees just to see what kind of action is going on. The Tigers ended up winning 3-0 over the Guardians. They had a few chances against Skubal, but again with Skubal, as the best pitcher in baseball, not named Chris Sale or Paul Skeens, it's almost impossible to get wins on that guy. He arguably is the best pitcher. Obviously we know Skeens is the best rookie we've seen in maybe 20 years. Again, there was some comparisons to Steven Strasburg, but I feel that Skeens is not only going to live up to the potential, but I think he's going to surpass, anything and everything Strauss did. And this could end up being the next big superstar pitcher as long as he doesn't tear an ACL, regardless if he stays with Livy Dunn or not. The guy is an animal. He's got such great control, and he's one of the best righties that we've seen in a long, long time. But as far as lefties are concerned, definitely Skubal 1, Sale 2. They could be interchangeable, but give me Skubal as the best pitcher in baseball this season. He's just something. Again, I ended up watching a good chunk of that game, and they had a couple opportunities, but it took them all the way to like the 5th, 6th inning to actually try to get a hit on him. And that's when a guy is electric, when it takes that long just to get a hit and get on base, but they weren't able to knock anybody in. So we got CM Punk coming out. Cool Kid in the building. What's good? Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed the like button yet, please do. We want to show for 20 likes within the first hour, 30 to 50 overall, and we're going to be shooting for 100 in the donos on every single stream as we see CM Punk limping as he comes out here on Monday Night Raw. I'm not sure if I like Raw only being 2 hours long, but again, it's quality over quantity, right? And they've done that on the pay-per-views, and we've liked that idea. Instead of having 7, 8 matches and having 3 of them be average or just booty, right? They end up having only 5, and most of them hit. Even the one that ends up being the worst match out of the 5 typically ends up being like a 7.5 or an 8, and everything else is an 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, or a 10. So Zachary in the building. What's good? It's going to be a tough test, man. Again, you guys still have injuries when you guys don't have your starting center. Ruiz being out, for half of the season or a good chunk of the season. That's not something that you can easily replace. There has been some defenders, that have missed a little bit of time, like DeMario Davis as well. This isn't going to be easy. Now, if this was the Saints team that played in week 1 and week 2, then I would say, yeah, they got an excellent chance to be able to steal one. But again, with all of the injuries, you've seen what happened with the Buccaneers. You've seen what happened with the Seahawks. When you don't have your starters out there and you end up playing an opponent, regardless if they're a top-tier team, mid-level team, or a bottom-feeder team, that could make all of the difference. And I'm not saying it's impossible for the Saints to win this game, but a lot of things would have to happen, to be able for them to get the dub here tonight. I think the Saints are capable. Again, they have to have a good game from Carr. They have to have a good game with AK-41 Alvin Kamara. He might have to hit the end zone once, twice, or 3 times. A big night from Olave. And again, the offensive line has to step up based off those injuries, and the defense has to play very, very well. So if they can make it kind of like the Steelers-Cowboy game last night, where it ends up being lower scoring and we end up getting like a 2017 game or something of that nature, then there's a chance the Saints might be able to do it. But if it goes above 20, chances are that the Chiefs are going to end up winning the matchup. And even if it ends up being lower scoring, the Chiefs, might end up winning the matchup. I mean, this is a very difficult place to win. Just like when they go to the Dome in Nolens, it's a very difficult place to play. Both crowds are 2 of the best in the NFL. They got great, great fan support. But and this is, and I always give credit where credit's due. Just because I'm a Bucks fan, it's not like I'm a hater towards the Saints. I might actually be one of the biggest Saints supporters and NFC South supporters, even though I'm a Buck fan. I'm not a hater towards the Panthers, the Falcons, or the Saints. I want our division to do well, but this is going to be very difficult for them to win. Now if they were healthy, definitely 50-50 chance, but with the injuries, and again, the Chiefs got no Pacheco and no Rashee Rice. So again, they don't have everyone out there either, but we'll see how it goes. And either way, we'll have to kind of, wait and see. But yeah, well, for you, every Saints fan or Chief fan or any NFL fan is going to be a little biased, regardless if you feel that way or not. You love your team, you love your city, you love your players, and we have, a connection and attachment, to our team. Sometimes in blind faith, where we think that we're going to win, even though we know we probably are going to lose. We just have that blind faith in the team. But one thing that you can't, dismiss is injuries. And injuries have been a big, big factor in wins and losses this year. That's just plain and simple. We have more superstars hurt in the first 5 weeks than ever. Not getting a whole lot of production out of the quarterbacks and the tight ends this year, not only in real life and in fantasy, but I do hope it ends up being a big, big game. Saints started off 2-0. They've dropped the last two, and Carr hasn't looked good in the last 2 weeks after scoring 91 points in the first 2 weeks and looking like an MVP candidate. So it shows you the season is long, and I feel that a lot of other Saints fans would agree. This is going to be a very up and down year. And at the beginning of the year, when the Saints were 2-0 and the Bucks were 2-0, we thought, okay, the media isn't giving us enough respect, and the Falcons are just crowned the new NFC South champs. But as you guys got hurt and I got hurt, Atlanta is 3-2. They've beaten the Saints and the Bucks. But let's be honest, if there was a couple plays that went the other way, Atlanta could easily be 0-5 right now. But you could also flip it and say they could be 5-0. They've had every game come down to like a field goal at the end or like last possession to score a touchdown. So it's not like, the Atlanta Falcons are uber dominant. It's going to be a 3-team race in the NFC South between the Falcons, Saints, and Bucks. I just want the Saints and the Buccaneers to be healthy, so that way we have a healthy Saints, healthy Bucks, and then we can see who can actually win. And obviously with your guys' injuries, no Antoine Winfield Jr. and a few other starters on defense on my end out, that makes a huge difference. People want to say that injuries can be an excuse, but it really isn't. Now we got Seth Rollins coming out face-to-face with CM Punk. I love it. Let's go, baby. Double Raw. Yeah, I read that as well. Seth with the fit. All right, baby. Okay, let's go. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. Help your boy out. Oh. Love me some Seth. All right, let's smash that like button. We're only at 5. Let's get to 10 here within the first 30 minutes. Let's get to 20 in the first hour, and then hopefully we can hit somewhere between 25 and 40 before the game ends. If it ends up being a little bit lighter of a broadcast, hopefully somewhere at least 25 in that 30 range. We're at 7 now. 3 more to go to get to 10. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. And any type of support that we can get through Twitter/X with the post, smashing the like button, sharing the post, commenting, donating, whatever you can do would be greatly appreciated. Seth freaking Rollins. Let's go. And I apologize, I wasn't able to get any reaction videos out early this morning. Paisley needed a little bit more attention. Jamal Charles in the building. That's awesome. One of the best running backs the Chiefs have ever had. When you think running backs, you think Christian Okoye, right? You think about who? Jamal Charles, right? You think about Larry Johnson, from some of those OGs from a few years back. Absolutely love them. All three of those guys. Cool to see Jamal Charles there. Hell yeah. Let's go. Judah in the building. What's good? Kansas City's got a great environment, man. Very passionate fans. You got a little bit of that smoke from the machine there that looks a little bit like fog. You got the ambiance. The fans are ready, and we got to kneel down. Let's go, baby. All right, Derek Carr, you look fantastic in the first 2 weeks. 5 touchdowns and 1 pick, playing some kind of lower competition, but you played very, very well. Injuries have happened in week 3 and 4. And again, the team isn't the same as it was in the first 2 weeks, but they still are capable of winning games. I like that they got the color rush on, which are some of my favorites. I love the helmet. I love the design. I love the stripe. And I love the white jersey with the gold number, with the black outline. It is a very fire look. We've seen a few teams rock that look as well. That Raiders also run the white color rush with the gray numbers, and those are fire. Carr, shotgun set, little check down. There we go. Nice start there. Juwan Johnson, go Ducks, baby. Look at that injuries. Willie Gay out. Taysom Hill out. Pete Werner out. Cesar Ruiz might be the big one, and Shane Lemieux. And like I said, the big ones are going to be Cesar Ruiz, Pete Werner, right? Those are going to be the 2 big ones. Taysom Hill is always someone that you want to be able to have access to. But obviously no Pacheco and no Rashee Rice. Those are, guys that are more top tier, but still. Hand off to AK-41. Half yard short to the marker. AK-41, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, go Ducks, and Foster Moreau. No, I don't have anybody. I'm all done. Like, pretty much it's decided for the 5 matchups in our league. Everyone is pretty much already done. We already know who won. I beat Megan. Zini beat Matt. Reflect beat Sarah. Shep beat Captain Oreo, and Elliot. Go back the other way. Go back the other way. Block for him. There you go, Carr. There you go. First down, Saints. And if they're going to have any chance to win in this game, AK-41 has got to get over 80 yards and probably has to get in the end zone a few times. Nice shiftiness and awareness out of AK-41. Nice little hurdle and agility and elusiveness to be able to get away from the defenders. Nice job, Alvin Kamara. The alien, baby. 9-yard gain from AK-41. I love him. And again, we already, and we already know that the Chiefs are better on defense than they have been in the last couple years. But I don't think anyone anticipated the Chiefs' offense to drop off as much as they did, specifically Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Like, I get it, you got Pacheco, and I get it, you got Rashee Rice, you got Xavier Worthy, but again, when you see, touchdown to interception ratio for Patrick Mahomes, you definitely would think it would be better than what it is at this particular moment. Six touchdowns and 5 picks going into this game is not very Patrick Mahomes-like. Yeah, sometimes Monday night does determine winners. But a majority of the players in the league don't have a lot of players that are playing here today. Floater. Intercepted. What was that? Unbelievable. That was a terrible throw by Carr. Like, why would you just throw it up like that? I think they're going to blow it dead. But unbelievable. You're just throwing up like a 500 ball, and that's why people think that the Saints aren't going to win this game. Carr, was very efficient within the first 2 weeks. And yes, Patrick Mahomes isn't playing great either. 6 touchdowns and 5 picks. But you can't just give it away to the other team like that. You got, AK-41. You got Rashid Shaheed as your deep threat. You got Olave, who's a great possession receiver, right? What's going on here? Why would you just heave it up like that? And does he come down with it? Yeah, definitely comes down with the pick. Yes, Tigers and Mets, but also a Skubal pitch today. So you can almost guarantee when Skubal pitches against anyone, the Tigers win. It's just a matter of fact of that's just what happens. If they could have Skubal pitch, 2, 3, 4 times in a series, obviously that would be beneficial to them. But come on, Carr, just throw it away. Take the sack lunch. That's fucking terrible. And that's why, Zachary, a lot of people do not believe the Saints are going to win the game because, you have to protect the football, and you ended up having some good runs with AK-41, but Carr is a liability, and maybe getting Davante Adams will help, but again, you have to be a better decision maker at quarterback, and that was absolutely terrible on the road. Handoff. Kareem Hunt. I got Kareem Hunt on my bench, and I picked him up, and depending on how he does here tonight, obviously the Chiefs have a bye after this, that I might end up, utilizing Kareem Hunt at the flex, possibly, in the future. But they have this game against the Saints, a tough run defense, a bye week, and then they play the Niners. So, not sure if I'm going to use them anytime soon. Yeah, I was going to say, without Taysom Hill in the lineup, lining up as a, wildcat quarterback or lining up as a running back or a tight end, it definitely doesn't feel like the same type of offense. And again, Carr has not looked good since Ruiz and company have gone down. Mahomes, pump fake. First down, Chiefs. I would agree with that. And we obviously know Calvin is one of the biggest Saints fans that's out there. So, sometimes you just got to be honest with yourself as a fan. You could be a Saints fan, Zachary, but at the bottom line, when your team is good and when your team isn't. When your team is healthy and when they're not. And there's always going to be hope that you can end up winning a game, but nothing that you've seen in the last 2 weeks suggests that you're going to win today. It just hasn't been nice, in the last couple weeks compared to the first 2. But no Taysom, no Pete Werner, and no Ruiz. That's fucking deadly. For real, though. Yeah, I definitely think Skubal is the best pitcher right now. Him, obviously, Chris Sale is right there next to him, and then Skeens. I think that those are the top 3, as of right now, and obviously Skeens is not in the playoffs, probably on the couch with Livy Dunn. Hands off. They're down and short. I mean, you guys are feeling it just like the Bucs are. When you have guys that are out, and then you end up losing games to the Falcons where we both feel we should have won, and it's not like the Falcons are dominant, and they're like 5-0. They could be. They're a couple plays away. Nice little check down to Travis Kelce. First down, Chiefs. But, if you have a couple balls bounce the other way, Atlanta's 0-5. You could also say, a couple balls going the other way, they could be 5-0, but they're 3-2. They beat the Saints, they beat the Bucs, but again, both teams weren't healthy, and for a majority, the Atlanta Falcons have stayed healthy up to this point. So you got to give them credit where credit is due, but it's not like they are taking over the NFC South. But as long as our teams are injured, it seems like they're going to end up keeping that spot until we can get healthy. Mahomes, wide open. Travis Kelce, first down, Chiefs. Move the chains. For real, Elliott. First 2 weeks, Carr looked like an MVP candidate, right? Last 2 weeks, looks like he should be benched, for like Spencer Rattler or someone else. But I don't know if you guys are going to get Davante Adams, but obviously Davante wants to play for the Jets or the Saints. But I think going to the Saints would be better for him. Even though the Jets have names and whatnot, but they got Lazard and Breece Hall, and you got Garrett Wilson, but the offensive line stinks for the Jets. The play calling stinks. The defense is good for the Jets, but you could say the same thing for the Saints. But we'll see what happens. But you also have to have money to afford a player like that too. What's going on out over in New England? Handoff. Go, baby. There we go. Kareem Hunt putting his head down. First down, Chiefs. And the first game with limited touches, he got 10 points in fantasy. So I'm really hoping that Kareem Hunt can hit the end zone once or twice and get 80 to 100 yards. So that way I know that I can keep him on my roster for the rest of the year as an emergency running back, or I can use him in the flex possibly in the future. But again, they have a bye week next week. Then they go against the Niners. But the Niners defense isn't really the same without Javon out for the year on that defensive line. You're able to run a little bit more on the Niner defense than the normal. Play action fake. Mahomes. Noah Gray. First down, Chiefs. Who got arrested last night? I've heard a lot of people have been getting arrested lately. I think I know who you're talking about, though. First and goal. Hand off. Kareem Hunt. There we go. Get in the end zone. Yes. Touchdown, Chiefs. There we go. Uh-oh. That's not good. Let's see if he actually gets in or if his knee goes down. Oh, he's definitely in, baby. There we go. Kareem Hunt. Sometimes you got to be able to pick up those guys on the wire to give yourself that proper depth at running back. And I got plenty, but I definitely wasn't going to leave him sitting there for someone else to pluck. There's a lot of teams in the league right now that only have 2 or 3 running backs. You best believe I got 6, 7, 8 because I understand how injuries run in the league. Extra point is up, and it's good. 7-0 Chiefs. Nice job, Kareem Hunt. You're staying on my roster, baby. And I got Monday Night Raw on here as well. I'm double dipping. Strangulation, assault, that's not good. Yeah. Sounds like they might be making a quarterback change pretty soon as well. Going to Drake May over Jacoby Brissett. So kind of knew that was going to happen at some point or another. But yeah. Yeah, and it's not to be negative, if you're just stating the facts of what's going on with some of your players, and sometimes that happens. I mean, look at Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs on the Packers turned into a crybaby and decided not to go to practice for 2 days because he wasn't getting the football. And then they ended up suspending him for a game. So there's going to be a plenty of egos and a plenty of different personalities that are out there. Football players are just like regular human beings. They're going to end up having addictions and problems. And sometimes they're going to go on little bingers on drinking or partying, and it just so happens that the profession is being a professional football player. And that's unfortunate. Hopefully they'll be able to figure out what's going on with him, and they can get him back on the right track. So well, it's good for Kareem Hunt, to get a chance to be able to shine, because obviously the Cleveland Browns are a fucking mess. They obviously, even if they would have kept Baker, he wouldn't be as successful there as he is in Tampa Bay. Deshaun Watson is fucking terrible. Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and Njoku are pretty much worthless. Jerome Ford, Nick Chubb, it's like you got all these guys that could help a team out. Offensive line isn't that good. Defense has got Myles Garrett, but they're really not playing good. They should have hung on to Joe Flacco. And let's be honest, even though Jameis Winston has problems, he's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson. This is not the same Deshaun Watson that we saw as a top 5 quarterback on the Texans a few years ago. After all of the sexual assault and all the massage table bullshit that has come out. This guy is not the same guy anymore. You know, we didn't really understand what kind of criminal he was in college and going into the league, but he's done. He's washed. He's like Russell Wilson. It's over. There's nothing left, you know. And again, to say that like Jameis Winston would be able to get you more yards and more wins, that's definitely saying something, because we know Jameis can, you know, throw pick sixes and turn the football over. But one thing that he can do that Deshaun Watson can't, he can actually throw the goddamn football, and he can actually get it downfield to guys like Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Njoku when he's healthy. You know, and getting the most out of Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb when they come back. What a damn shame, you know. But again, when you have a dysfunctional organization, you need to be able to get the right players to turn it around, just like the Commandos did with Jaden Daniels. They got a brand new coach, brand new quarterback, and now the Commandos look like they could end up being a force in the NFC. And there's going to be times where they have injuries and their defense looks like shit. But as far as offense is concerned, you know, Jaden Daniels is the brand new Lamar Jackson of the NFC, and I fucking like it. You know, it's about time that they actually had someone that's worthwhile for me to go out of my way to watch, you know. Big facts. All right, we're at 10. Let's get to 20. 10 in the first hour. There we go. And hopefully we get a few more people to come through and hang out. And then I'll try to pump out a couple reaction videos tomorrow, you know, just depending on how I feel and what Paisley needs. Obviously, the first one I'll do is the Ravens and Bengals. And then I'll probably end up doing 2 or 3. And then we'll see, you know, obviously as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. Obviously, I'll be doing Padres and Dodgers both of those days. And then we're going to do Seahawks and Niners on Thursday night. Short game by AK-41 Alvin Kamara. Second down and 7-0 Kansas City. Yeah, definitely gives you kind of throwback vibes for sure. All right, Saint, show us something. I mean, both of these teams have pretty good defenses. Carr steps up in the pocket, going long, going deep. He's got a man. Incomplete. Come on, Carr. And I just don't think Carr is a good fit for this team. You know, again, he's a quarterback kind of like a Kirk Cousins, you know, where he was normally ranked, you know, 10th, 11th, 12th. 13th, 14th, 15th. You know, he would kind of go up and down from 10 to 15. And he was a perfect fit for the Raiders, right? You had Darren Waller. You had Josh Jacobs. You had Devontae Adams. You know, you had, you know, the right pieces around for him to be able to be successful there, even though the offensive line really wasn't very good or the defense. But it was just the right type of offense and flow. You know, Carr on the Saints is like kind of ass backwards. Like, you know, he's a player, you know, but again, it shows you he was more of a system guy, you know, with those players that were around him with the Raiders. He's not the same type of capable quarterback like a Kirk Cousins who could go to any team and be successful. Carr is not that guy. You know, he's a poor man's Kirk Cousins. You know, he's not as good as Kirk. Kirk can go anywhere and have success, you know, but with Carr, it has to be the right coach, the right OC, the right supporting cast, and the right style of offense for him to be able to succeed and achieve greatness. And with this particular roster and team, it's just not the right fit. 4th and 5. Saints with the punt, right back to the Chiefs. This one might get ugly. Because, I mean, if you can't get anything on the ground with AK-41, you're fucked. You know, all you're doing is praying that you can go deep the Olave or Rashid Shaheed once or twice, and maybe they can end up having one-on-one coverage for like a deep touchdown. But, I mean, you're not really expecting a whole lot, you know, from a lot of these players, you know, going into Arrowhead. Braun Breaker. Down goes Kofi. And then obviously we got a 3-0 final with the Tigers and the Guardians. That series tied up 1-1. And then Yankees 1, Royals 0, end of the third inning. Stanton reached on an infield single to the shortstop. Torres scored. Wells the second, 1-0. So no home runs by Soto, Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, or Bobby Witt Jr. yet, but we'll keep an eye on that game as well. Braun Breaker out there throwing spears like he's vintage Goldberg. Okay. Or Rhino. So I assume this will be the next feud that we have between these two guys. Like, sub, donate, comment, share, help your boy out. And then let's take a quick peek at tomorrow. Let me see. So we'll probably do a reaction video to this game tomorrow. And we'll see. We'll see how it ends up. Ravens, Bengals, probably do that one. And then I'll have to kind of go through. Because just because it ends up being a good game, we also have to think, like, you know, which fan base is actually going to watch and support. So, but I typically try to do about 5 to 8, you know, each year. This year it's been, you know, probably about 5 a week, roughly, average. Some weeks there's going to only be 4, but, you know, if there's any type of recommendations based on, you know, those particular matchups for reaction videos, you know, people can comment and let me know either on the Atlanta Falcon, Tampa Bay Buccaneer video that I did or here in the chat. So, and then we'll end up doing Dodgers, Padres on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Hawks and Niners on Thursday Night Football. Mahomes, play action fake, little check down, incomplete. Scoreboard is on the screen. 7-0. 1-0 Yankees over the Royals. And then we got Monday Night Raw rolling right now too. Second down and 10. Card with a terrible interception to kind of open up the game. And Kareem Hunt rumbling and a bumbling, getting into the end zone, which is a good sign. So that way I feel comfortable, you know. And we don't really know when Pacheco is going to be back. And Steele had an opportunity to be the lead guy, but too many fumbling problems. And so that's why they ended up bringing Kareem Hunt back. And obviously they got Samaje Perine as the RB2, which is probably you know, the best 1-2 combo right now with all things considered with the injuries. Third down and 7. Yeah, again, you guys haven't looked good since week 2. You know, week 1 and week 2, you guys look great. But again, opponents that you played really weren't that good. And then the injuries started happening in week 3 and week 4. And, I mean, your guys' helmets and uniforms look fire. You know, again, I love the helmet. I love the stripe. You know, I love the little subtle details on the uniform. I love the color rush. But even with no Pacheco or Rashee Rice, you guys are huge underdogs in this game. Like, I don't see any scenario of you guys winning this game unless you guys get a pick 6, a special teams touchdown, a fumble for a touchdown. You know, something dramatic would have to happen for you guys to win the game. And it's not like the Chiefs have been playing excellent ball. You know, they're 4-0, but they easily could have been 2-2. And Mahomes has got 6 touchdowns and 5 picks. It's not like he's been lighting up the fucking planet, you know, with his amazing throws. You know, but no Pacheco and no Rashee Rice. That's big losses for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, you know, even with those 2 guys out, they're such a, you know, well coached that you would think they're still going to end up probably having one of the best records in the AFC, if not the best record. They're going to be up there. You know, as long as you got Mahomes, you got Kelsey, Andy Reid, and Chris Jones. Who? Chris Jones. Who? Chris Jones. That's going to keep you in line to be in almost every single game that you play. You know, even though Mahomes hasn't been playing well, you know, again, he'll be able to play well enough typically late in a game to get a dub, or at least to get into field goal range for Butker for them to win the game. 4th down and 12, Chiefs with the punt. Both offenses had a little bit of a stalemate besides that Kareem Hunt rushing touchdown. Here we go. Run, baby. Ooh, flag on the play. Bounces off a couple guys. Rashid Shaheed. He's got that good agility. Good speed. Let's see who the flag is on. Holding offense. Yeah, and if you've noticed, they haven't been showing her as much this season compared to last season. And she's not showing up on every single game, road or home. I mean, obviously you're gonna see her more at the home games than they are at the road, on road matchups, obviously, and depending on if she's got like some kind of tour going on or if she's performing. But Chief in the building. What's good, bro? What's good, Chief? Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. I got Monday Night Raw on. I got the Chiefs and the Saints on. I'm hanging out with y'all. I'm about to flip on the Royals and the Yankees at some point. Let's go. I don't know. I think with me, you can have like favorite athletes, and you can have like, singers and rappers and anything. But I feel like once you get to a point where you're like worshiping a political person, regardless if you're, a Republican or Democrat or undecided, but, or you're, having that same kind of vibe and worshiping like an artist, it ends up being kind of almost like a disease. Like if you notice the brainwashing that goes on and people just kind of fall for it, and the more that you end up seeing something, it's like the more you end up getting brainwashed, right? It's like if you end up, seeing a Burger King commercial 5 times, during an NFL broadcast, at some point, you may not even like Burger King, but the subliminal, messages and just all the commercials in your face, it will probably, make you want to go to Burger King, even though you may not like it. But, chances are if you see enough Burger King over and over and over that, more than likely in a week or two, you're going to find yourself in the drive-thru at a Burger King. And I feel that is kind of the same type of thing, when they're trying to push an agenda, whether it's an artist or a product. Like even WWE is getting insane. It's like they got the fucking Prime, on the ring apron. They got on the turnbuckles. They end up having on the outside. Like it's getting a little ridiculous where I feel like every jersey in sports is going to have like 10 fucking sponsors on it. And it's one thing to do it for like rugby and soccer, but if we're going to start getting like NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL jerseys that got patches of fucking Albertsons and Bi-Mart and Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, it's just a little fucking ridiculous. I get it. Everyone wants to make money and profit, but it's just getting a little too much. It's like, but I definitely feel, the people that worship, certain, artists and to the extreme level and political people, it's like a disease, man. Like it's not healthy. It's like worshiping a stripper. Like they don't like you. They like your money. You have no chance, But again, some people are too stupid to realize that. Men and women. First down and 15. 7-0 Chiefs. Carr, hands off. And really the only bright spot is AK-41. But if the line isn't healthy, as great as AK-41 is, you're going against Chris Jones and company. There's not a whole lot there, And again, even if the line was 100%, still would be tough against Spagnuolo and this Chiefs defense, which is now the strong suit of the team 2 years in a row. First it was Tyreek. Then they said you can't win out without Tyreek. They did. Then they ended up getting a better defense. And now the defense is one of the strong suits, not only for the Chiefs, but in the NFL. Yes. You root for the Royals too, being a Chief fan, or is it just something that you just kind of watch once in a while? I like AEW because, for me, I'm not one of those people that, only likes, one or the other. I kind of have, appreciation for that different type of style. Whether it's like that ECW hardcore style, and I liked ECW and WCW a lot growing up. Not that I didn't like WWF. I did. Love DX, Stone Cold, Rock, and all that, but third down and 13. Carr going long, going deep. 1-on-2. Contact and no call. Wow. They might say that was incidental, but I need to see a replay there. But if that's Patrick Mahomes going deep, do they call that for the Chiefs? Let's take a look. Yeah, that's a no call. So they definitely trip over each other, but I wouldn't have called the flag there. Oh yeah, man. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks. Like I said, I like Darby. I like a unique type of wrestlers. And again, WWE is king. They got the best product and the best matches and the best storyline. Again, AEW was king during COVID, and WWE was terrible with Vince. And that's when AEW kind of took over for a couple years. But since then, since Vince got pushed out and it's been Triple H running the show, it's flipped. And now, a lot of people that used to watch AEW, including myself, do not watch on a regular basis anymore. I'm trying to get back, into watching it, on a weekly basis like I do with Raw and SmackDown. Even I don't watch NXT weekly like I used to. When it was the black and gold NXT, I used to watch it. And back then, NXT used to be the best, even better than SmackDown and Raw. But, I feel like NXT I'll watch maybe once a month. SmackDown, usually weekly, and Raw. Sometimes maybe I'll miss it a week and then I get it 2 times out of a month with SmackDown, but I try to do every week. And then Raw is typically watched every week. And then with Dynamite, I got to a point where I was watching Rampage maybe about once a month, but I used to watch that every week. And then I used to definitely watch Dynamite every week, but now I find myself watching Dynamite only maybe once or twice a month. But I'm trying to get back to watching Raw and Dynamite. If those are the only shows that I'm going to watch, I want to try to watch those on a regular weekly basis. But again, with baseball and NASCAR and NHL coming up and all these other things that we got going on, and I got to take care of Paisley, I got to read, I got to do film study, I got to do stuff for the channel. Sometimes I don't have enough time to do everything, but I like AEW. Like I said, it's not going to be for everyone, but again, I kind of like, that, you might not recognize all the names, kind of like ECW, but that doesn't mean that the wrestling isn't entertaining. Back when they had RVD and Sabu, it might not be as recognizable as Stone Cold and The Rock, but I had just as much fun watching ECW back in the day, if not more, than I did with some, shows from Raw back in the day. And I love WCW too. I'm a big NWO guy. When you're NWO, you're NWO for life, brother. Ooh, yeah. So I'm not one of those haters that only watches one or the other and shits on the other one. I'm a fan of both. And even once in a while, I might end up watching NJPW in Japan or maybe Impact, but it might have to be something special for me to do that. So 7-0 Chiefs. Are the Saints going to be able to get on the board? Ruiz, their center, is out, right? No Taysom Hill, no Pete Werner on defense, as well as a few other starters. And you can definitely tell that the Saints team is not the same team that we used to see in the first 2 weeks of the season. Last 2 weeks, it's been very, very rough. Carr was going from putting up 20 to 30 points in fantasy the first 2 weeks to putting up 5 to 8 points. That's not going to cut it. Halfback toss. There we go. I need all the points I can get out of Kareem Hunt, baby. Yeah, I got an Ultimate Warrior figure here on my desk. Like the figures that I had in my original WWF. I was never a rich kid or anything, but I had Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Big Boss Man with the nightstick, and then the Bushwhackers, Luke and Butch. But those were the 5 figures, and I still got all 5 from my childhood still to this day. Second down and 3. Mahomes. There we go. First down, Chiefs. Move the chains. But I think if you just keep an open mind, and just enjoy what you're seeing, you'll start to pick up, the different gimmicks and the different wrestlers that are in there. But, I'm a big Kenny Omega guy, Young Bucks, Will Ospreay. I like being able to watch athletic wrestlers. I like lucha libre style, high risk maneuvers. I like guys that can spit on the mic, as well. So, I mean, they definitely have some talent over there for sure. First down and 10. The only thing that they're not as good as WWE is the women's division. They don't have enough women on the top tier level. They got Mercedes Moné, who aka Sasha Banks, and they got Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, but that's about it. And they got a few other ladies that are kind of up and coming, but I wouldn't put them, in some of the, higher categories than some of the ladies that we got in WWE. Hand off there to Steele. Nice positive game. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Second down and 2. Screen pass to Kelsey. They're getting him involved. Obviously, with Taylor Swift in the building, obviously they need to get him the ball a little bit more. And obviously with no Rashee Rice there, more opportunities for him. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. We need 9 more to get to 20. Let's get there, baby. Two 2-1 Royals. How did they score, Sarah? I'll take a look at my phone in a second. End of the first quarter, 7-0 Chiefs. I like that they're giving plenty of opportunities to Kareem Hunt, just like he had when he was on the team, 6-7 years ago. Oh, wrestling broadcasts are so much fun. I mean, sometimes we end up having a decent crowd. Other times it ends up being a little bit smaller of a group, but it's fun, Like I said, we end up having a bigger layout. I don't have any of the cards laid out, on the screen itself. It's just me in the background. And then it's just nice to be able to watch a pay-per-view together and just enjoy wrestling. And then hopefully one day, if AEW ends up having an app, or if they make it like a little bit more cheaper, where it's like a subscription, like $5 a month, and then everyone can watch AEW pay-per-views instead of having to pay $50 or $60 4 times a year. As hardcore as a fan as I am as AEW, I don't even really like paying, for pay-per-views unless I know that all my favorites are going to be wrestling. And even with that being said, sometimes I can't afford it. But I usually try to buy one pay-per-view a year for AEW for $50 or $60. I just can't afford to pay, $240 or whatever, for 4 pay-per-views. Now, if they ended up all being amazing, and they typically end up, being worth the money, depending on the event, but just can't afford it, Now, if donos get a little bit higher, then maybe, but it also, too, it's like if I end up ordering the AEW pay-per-view, it's like, am I going to even be able to watch it with anybody on stream? Because there's not very many people that actually buy the pay-per-view for AEW. Like, I think there's a lot of AEW fans, but you have to have the money and you have to be a diehard to buy the pay-per-view. Otherwise, you're just going to be feeling, little highlights, or you're trying to find like a streaming link that might cut out halfway through the pay-per-view. So Pete Dunne going to the ring here with Sheamus. Yeah, and we always do the WWE pay-per-views once a month, PLEs. Again, we've had some weird times this year because we've had them internationally, like in France and Germany, when they end up being overseas, sometimes I have to stream at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So when they're in America and they're at like 3 to 5 p.m., I like those times a little bit better. So that way I can spend time with Paisley and, run my errands and then watch the pay-per-view instead of having to wake up first thing in the morning, to a wrestling pay-per-view. But, it is what it is. Salvador Perez, homer, Bam, RBI. Oh, okay. This game feels like it's going to be a blowout. And I respect the, Saints defense, but again, they don't have an answer for Kareem Hunt. I don't think they're going to have an answer for Travis Kelce with the injuries that they've had. And if you give Mahomes a clean pocket and you don't put pressure on him, even though he's got 6 touchdowns and 5 picks, he will tear you apart, at some point in the game. It may not be in the first, second quarter. You might have to wait to the third or the fourth, but we'll see how this goes. 2nd down and 2. There you go. Good pressure, but they can't get the sack lunch. Screen pass. Kareem Hunt, baby. He's about to score again. Man, I maybe should have started Kareem Hunt in fantasy, but I already won, so I didn't really need him. But Kareem Hunt already with 12.6. And if he can score once or twice, yeah. That way I got Mason. I got James Conner. I got Kareem Hunt. I got Zach Moss. I got Tony Pollard. I'm stacked at running back, baby. 4-1. Uh-oh. Royals. Trying to feed off that Kansas City love. Ooh, nice spinning DDT by Dunn to Sheamus. 1st down and 10. Man in motion. Hardman. That's a play that they should have done for like Xavier Worthy, but maybe they'll have that cooking in the bag at some point in this game. Chiefs knocking on the door in the red zone again. They have no answer to stop the run, and receivers are catching things pretty much at will with limited pressure. Mahomes using his legs, keeping his eyes downfield. Touchdown, Chiefs. But there's a flag on the play, probably holding on the Chiefs' offensive line. Yep. That one's coming back. But I like Mahomes keeping his eyes downfield, not having to feel the pressure that he needs to run in for a touchdown himself. Taylor with the penalty. Oh, definitely a big hold right there. Big bear hug. 2 holds, actually, right there. And then the one way that you know that someone is holding is when they put their hands up like this. Never put your hands up like this. The police aren't there. You don't need to be like, freeze. When you do this, the ref already knows you did something wrong. Come on, Taylor. 2nd down and 15. Even though there's holding pretty much on every fucking play in the NFL, they just don't want to slow the game down. Shotgun set. Mahomes steps up in the pocket, falling down. There we go. Travis Kelce with the short game, getting about half the yards back there on 3rd down. Yeah. I probably will end up starting Kareem Hunt at some point, but they have a bye week after this week, and then they have the Niners. But the Niner defense isn't as good without Kinlaw on the line. So, yeah, I might end up starting Kareem Hunt. If he can play like Pacheco, why not? Spin move and complete. Ooh, Mahomes. Field goal is up. And it's good. 10-0 Chiefs. Harrison Butker. Mahomes. And if Mahomes would have just gathered himself right there after the spin move and just, would have been like, okay, I might take a hit here, that throw would have been right on the money and it would be 14-0. But he got a little bit flustered and rushed after the spin move, couldn't really get his bearings, and just overthrew the intended receiver. But they still end up getting 3. And the way that this game is going, I don't really know if we're going to get anything out of the Saints. It's unfortunate because, again, since I'm a Buck fan, a typical Buck fan loves seeing the Saints, Falcons, and Panthers struggle. They just fucking love it. They love to talk shit. They love to be, and it's every fan in that, group. Saints fans hate Buck fans. Saints fans hate the Falcons. Saints fans hate, the Panthers. Everyone kind of, no matter what division you're in, there's going to be a lot of hate, right? But I don't like seeing the team look like this. I want the NFC South to be represented a certain way, and again, even though they may be my number one rival, I want the game to be at least competitive. I don't want you to just get your fucking ass kicked out there, but it's like me doing Saints reaction videos. The first 2 weeks, we got like 4,000 views on each video. And then since then, we've only gotten a couple hundred because the Saints fans don't show up and want to watch their highlights when they get their ass kicked. So, hopefully we can get the Saints back into the win column after the injuries go away, and then we can get some better views, on the Saints reaction videos. But, it'd be nice if they would just come through and support your boy, but I guess it's too much for them to be able to watch them play bad football. They got Pete Dunne with the cane on Sheamus, trying to choke him out. $12.6 out of Kareem Hunt. I like it, baby. So, Sarah, you were mentioning that Raw is going to be 2 hours long for the rest of the year. It's not just today. They said it's going to be for the rest of the year, only 2 hours. And what is the reasoning? I obviously know that they are doing like a UK show, so they're doing double taping, right? So they're doing Raw today, 2 hours, and then what? And then when the cameras go off, they're doing Raw 2 hours after that for next week's show. Is that what they're doing, like a pre-tape? So they're going to actually do 4 hours of wrestling for the fans, but they're only going to show Raw for this week, and then they're going to save the 2 hours for next Monday Night Raw. Is that what they're doing? You probably would have more if you've been on Twitter/X. I know they probably have been explaining that a little bit more. Okay, and is there another reason because of the network that they're on? Because they have like hockey coming up or something? Like, is there a particular reason that they're shutting it to 2, not 3, because they have a schedule conflict on the network? Is that what it is? There has to be another reason, that they're going from 3 to 2. Something coming up with the NHL or some other programming with basketball. It has to be something like that, right? Jamal Williams with the return. Yeah, well, I told you already, for my dad and Valhalla and all the Dodger fans, they're in trouble. Whoever ended up playing the Padres is fucked. Like, you're going to have to end up having a spectacular game, out of Freddie and Teoscar and Ohtani and Mookie Betts, going 0 for a billion and not being able to get a hit is not helping, especially if you're a first ballot Hall of Famer and you can't hit. They need Mookie to be a star, not to go 0 for a billion, and they're in trouble. Their pitching isn't as good as it was in the regular season, and that's kind of been the Dodgers' bugaboo, is their pitching and their defense. It's just, their hitting is amazing when they're on, but again, when you get matched up with a team that has equal amount of Hall of Famers on it, and their pitching and their defense might be better right now than what the Dodgers are doing, they are, in a, potential danger of losing. And again, if the Padres win the series, they will beat the Mets or the Phillies, and they will represent the National League. I don't know if they'll win it all, but I know that they are good enough to get to the championship. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't say it. But it's not like the Dodgers and the Phillies and Mets. I mean, obviously the Mets, what they're doing is a little surprising, but sometimes teams get hot at the right time, and it looks like the Mets and the Padres are peaking at the right time, right? Tigers and Guardians can go really either way. Guardians are probably the better team top to bottom, but the Tigers have Skubal, and they've been kind of hot at the right time. So the Tigers might be able to beat the Guardians. And then with the Royals and Yankees, Royals, beat the Orioles, so they're probably feeling pretty good that they think that they can beat the Yankees. And, just because you have Judge and Ohtani doesn't mean that we're going to have a LA-New York World Series that everyone wants. Because, again, if pitching and defense isn't good for those teams, you will lose. It's like you can win 100, 120 games in the regular season, but it doesn't mean shit if you're not on point in the playoffs, unfortunately. So. Two hours Raw is interesting. I guess for hardcore wrestling fans, that sucks for them because you're missing an hour. But as long as they, have better matches, less bullshit, less filler time, Carmichael, Olsen, Lombardi, Kubiak. Second down and 9. 10-0 Chiefs. Carr. There we go. First down, Saints. Rashid Shaheed, move the chains. But, out of every quarterback that's in the NFL, there's only one that is on the wrong team, and it's Carr. Like I said, it has to be a certain type of quarterback, that would be able to run this system. And, I just don't think that this is a proper fit for the team. And I don't necessarily think Spencer Rattler would be that much better either, or Taysom Hill. They need to find either someone from the draft or to find a better fit for this particular team and how they play offense. Handoff up the gut. Short gain for AK-41 Alvin Kamara. But the way that this game is going, it's, hopefully the Saints can end up putting up some points here on the board. Uh-oh. Saints with the tutty. Touchdown, Saints. There you go, Carr. Finally, we get a little bit of offense from the Saints. 6 for 10 with 42 yards with Carr. There you go. Carr going long, going deep, wide open, touchdown, Rashid Shaheed. And that's the one guy that you cannot leave open without Chris Olave. And that's one part of the defense that you can try to exploit since they don't have L'Jarius Sneed, right? You can go deep on the Chiefs, right? Their strong suit is their front seven. And obviously you have a broken coverage there. And if you let Olave or Rashid Shaheed get behind you, you are done. Nice throw by Carr. I still think you're not a good fit for this team, but the Saints fans can rejoice. 10-7 Chiefs. Well, that's a good sign. At least we're not going to end up getting like a 23-3 blowout. So that's definitely good. Rashid Shaheed fantasy owners rejoice. Extra point is up. Groupie, who's been a good fantasy kicker this year as well. 10-7 Chiefs. Thank God. Reflect in the building. What's good? 10-7 Kansas City. Kareem Hunt looking good. Rashid Shaheed getting in on the action. We got Sheamus and Pete Dunne going at it on Monday Night Raw. We got Royals beating up the Yankees. And again, we might end up seeing a lot of upsets, where it might be like the Royals and Tigers, right? It might end up, being the Mets and the Padres. Like, you never really know. I mean, just because you're good in the regular season doesn't mean a whole lot in the postseason. I'm good, man. How are you? Obviously I went on 2 long walks with Paisley. I could tell that she wanted to spend a little bit more time with me. I didn't get a chance to pump out a couple reaction videos. I did the Falcons and Bucks. So I plan on trying to do 3 or 4, depending on my schedule. So tomorrow I'll do 2 or 3, and then that'll probably be what I do for the week. I'll start off tomorrow probably with the Ravens and Bengals, and then I'll try to do maybe 2 other matchups. And then we're going to end up doing the Dodgers and Padres tomorrow, Dodgers and Padres on Wednesday, and then we'll do your Hawks and the Niners on Thursday. But I'm doing pretty good. There you go, Elliot. Again, I feel like Carr isn't really a good fit for this team, but again, every once in a while, if you know how to exploit the weakness on the defense, and the defensive weakness for the Chiefs is the secondary, and if you can exploit that, then obviously you can come up with big plays like to a deep ball to Rashid Shaheed or Chris Olave. Even though Olave is more of a possession guy and a guy from the 20 to the 20s, a guy that blows the top off, that's going to be a Rashid Shaheed, and he's done that all year. Just like hit him with a go route, see if he can run past the corner or safety, no help over the top, and if Carr can get the ball anywhere near Rashid Shaheed, he's got it. He'll catch it for a touchdown, which he's proven. So I'm happy that you guys actually did something, but no Ruiz at center is killing y'all. No Pete Werner, no Taysom Hill. So you guys are at a disadvantage, just like with no Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco. You know, it's not like Mahomes has been a fantastic quarterback going into the game, 6 touchdowns, 5 picks. Not elite by any means. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that have been playing much better than Mahomes, right? Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, just to name a couple. So 7 more likes at 20. Let's get there. Yes, he is. But the real question is did you play him in fantasy this week? And I don't think you did. You had him on the bench, didn't you? And I like that Kareem Hunt is getting some good production. I figured by picking him up on the wire early, thinking that he would be able to get 10 to 20 points every week is coming true. So that way, if I have any problems with Connor or Mason or with Zach Moss or Pollard, I have another option for a guy. He ended up having 14 attempts, 69 yards, 10.5 points, as well as 2 receptions for 16 yards. I thought today would be better, even though the defense is stiff. 9 attempts, 45 yards, and obviously 1 touchdown on the ground, and he's got 1 reception for 15 yards so far. So he's already exceeded the point total from last week. He's already at 13, and we still got 2.5 quarters to go. So using Kareem Hunt in fantasy might be a reality for me, and I'm happy about that. I figured he would be good, and there are going to be games where Hunt will score maybe 2 or 3 times. 2 times on the ground, maybe once in the air, and if that happens, that's like 20, 30 points. So I'm looking forward to that. Because again, some of my running backs, they hit, but some of them, they don't. So it's like, just because you got James Conner and Jordan Mason and you think you're going to get 18 or 20 every week, the harsh reality is sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're only going to give me like 8, and I got to pray that that's enough to win or have a backup option. And so, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far there out of Kareem Hunt. They're using him as 3rd string now. I know you picked him up initially, because you wanted to see, but he's had some fumbling problems. So now the pecking order goes Kareem Hunt 1, Samaje Perine. When he was on the Bengals, he was awesome as an RB2. If you remember with him and Joe Mixon, when Joe Mixon got hurt, Perine a couple years ago was badass. And so Perine is the number 2, and then Steele will be the number 3, where, once in a while they may give him a run from the 20 to the 20. Once in a while to stifle the defense and fool them, they might give him like a fullback dive kind of look, and he might steal a touchdown from Perine or Hunt. That may be possible, but I think at this point they have moved him down to 3rd string. So we'll see on how it goes. But the main reason that they had to bring in Hunt and upgrade Perine is that he looked good in preseason. Steele, but he's got a fumbling problem. Just like Ramondre Stevenson. He's fumbled in every game in the first 4 games. They benched him, right? But then he still ended up scoring a touchdown. Funny how that ends up working out. When you end up getting benched, but you still get playing time, and then you get motivated to get into the end zone. But again, fumbling problems are definitely a way for you to get less playing time for sure. So, you got Rashid Shaheed and family? He's a good deep threat. If you're actually just talking about a guy, hitting a go route or a post route, he's one of the best in the NFL. Like, it seems like 8 times out of 10, if you throw deep and it's anywhere near him, it's a touchdown. And he's definitely gotten some pretty good point totals so far within the first 5 weeks. Yeah, there's going to be a few weeks where he ends up having a dud, where he hits like 5 points. But there are going to be weeks where he puts up 15, 20, and maybe even 25, depending on if he can get into the end zone more than once. Mahomes, floater, incomplete. I was thinking about picking him up in the draft when I saw him, just because I knew that there would be opportunities there. All right, looks like we need 6 more likes to get to 20. We're at 14. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 20 to 30 before the stream ends. 3rd down and 6. 10-7 Chiefs. Man in motion, shotgun set. Mahomes, pressure off the edge, holding, not called. Mahomes running away. Chase Young trying to chase and catch him, but not fast enough. First down, Chiefs. Move the chains. (4-1) Royals. Yankees in trouble. Looks like that will be series will be tied up. Little quick screen. Yeah, Double E, he killed it, especially when, like I said, when Chief got that big point total out of Mooney, as well as Drake London. I mean, 9 times out of 10, if the other guys hit, you lost. Like, it was already over. So for him to be able to get good numbers and have more consistency in his 9 players, his 9 spots, that's what ended up getting him the victory. Really, the main difference was Kraft with 2 touchdowns and getting like 20-plus points at tight end. If that doesn't happen, Elliott doesn't win. That was really the deciding factor. A little floater, but again, Chief had a lot of guys shit the bed. Like Jaden Daniels was good, Mooney was good, London was good, but again, you can't have 4 spots do well and 5 shit the bed. Like you need more than that. You can only afford to get like 5s, maybe on a couple spots. You need to be hitting double digits on every spot, and even getting 10 isn't going to get you a victory. You got to hope that essentially you get 15 points or more from every spot, and if you can shoot for that, that's what I shoot for every week. I try to shoot for 15 every week from every position or more. Whether that's defense, kicker, which is aggressive, tight end, obviously we know points are very few and limited. And then obviously the quarterback, the minimum you want is 15 and you can still feel good about it. But obviously you want 20, 30, 40. Running backs, you get 15, you still feel pretty good. But obviously you want 20, 30 if you can get it. And then wide receivers, if you can get 10, that's so be it. But 15 out of wide receiver, you'll still feel pretty good. But then if you can get to 20 and up, then you feel really good about your chances. So got an injury now. Tigers with Scooball with the win, tied up 1-1. Royals up 4-1 now in the bottom of the 5th. I assume that'll be tied up 1-1. We're going to have Phillies and Mets tomorrow at 2:08. And who knows, what direction that game will go in. Mets could win. They're going to be at home now. So we'll see what happens there. And then obviously the series goes to San Diego for the Padres. And it's first team to win 3 games, right? 3 games out of 5. Dodgers are in trouble. Yeah. Well, on hindsight, it could be worse, Sarah. You could have played Zini this week. Then it could have been like, 200 points, to 60, 70 points. So, just got to be able to get, players that are healthy. And obviously you need, again, drafting is so important, and also working the wire every week. But if you don't do enough, on the wire weekly, and then your running backs get hurt, then you are in the situation that you're in. You should have probably had more depth at running back every single week after week 1. But again, sometimes it's not going to be a number 1 priority because you're getting points, out of Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor, and you don't think they're going to get hurt. But again, once those guys get hurt and then you have to go for backups, then you run a real risk of trying to be able to compete with the rest of the league. So especially when some of us have 6, 7, 8 running backs, on our roster. And then there's a good chunk of the league that only has 2 or 3. It's very hard to win in fantasy with only 2, 3 running backs, especially if your main 2 get hurt. It's like almost impossible at that point. So hopefully things will get a little bit better for you. Yeah, people underperforming and getting injured. It's, the story of our lives, huh? It's terrible. And it shows you, regardless if it's me or Reflect or Shep or anybody, so, people at the bottom, people at the top, everyone's getting hurt. Reflect might be in first place 5-0, but he's had injuries in Nico Collins now with the hamstring out for a few weeks. Joe Mixon not being able to be reliable and out there, right? Njoku hasn't really played for him at all this year. So it's like, you're still winning, but the thing is that's keeping you afloat is that you had a great draft and you've been working the wire every single week just in case. And so that way that if something like this does happen, that you're still able to keep winning. You're not going to be able to score 150, 160, 170, but if you can get to 120 to 130, depending on who you're playing, you're still going to have a good chance to win every week, and that's what you've done. You haven't been able to put yourself in a position where you've only been able to score 80 or like 90, and then you've lost. You've had enough top-tier talent on the bench to fill in, and guys that you're getting on the wire, streaming defenses, streaming kicker, and not a lot of people do that besides like you and me. So, a lot of these people, they'll grab 3 defenses and they'll just keep them on the roster. And again, if you realize that that's not really necessarily the best way to go about it, or having 8 quarterbacks like Shep, it's working for him now. And if he wants to go that route, that's fine. But again, sometimes when you have too much of one position and you're not focused on the backups of another, then, having 3 defenses could really kill you. Or having 5, 6 quarterbacks when you have a problem at tight end or a problem at kicker and you're ignoring it. And then eventually that shit will come back to bite you. And then you'll end up having underperforming numbers, and then also injuries. And then things just start stacking up. And then you're just like, holy hell, what happened to my fantasy team? So, and also too, you got a lot of smart individuals in this league that, again, if you're not, taking advantage of the wire, someone like me is going to stay up all night and I'm going to scoop up every single good piece when everyone else is sleeping. And that's how it goes. It's either you're going to do the job or you're not. So, and if you're not going to do the job, then someone else will do it for you. So, $1 holla, $4 holla, $3, $1. We're at $4. Appreciate you guys. Holding offense, stacks on stacks, racks on racks, little cactus jack bang bang. We're at 1. Now we're at 3. We're at 4. Thank you so much. 96 to go. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks, little cactus jack bang bang. I mean, there's so many factors that go into fantasy. Who the quarterback is, who the coordinator is. Is it home or away? Is it a green matchup? Is it neutral? Is it red? It's not just like, oh, I look at the point totals on the projected and I just roll the dice. Because if you do that, it may work out for you, sometimes, but a lot of times it'll come back to bite you. Decent game there for the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster. Appreciate you, Sarah. Appreciate you, Reflect. And also, you can also look at, the teams that are at the top. See how they are, manufacturing their lineup week in and week out, Like, you can learn a lot on someone's style in fantasy just by watching what they do every week. But again, not a lot of people are going to do that besides me, or maybe even like a Reflect. Most people are only focused on their own team, And also you have to be smart and know when to block. When you know that someone's going to need something and maybe you don't need this particular player lateral, there we go. But sometimes you have to be smart enough to know that, if someone needs a position and you're on the wire and you can block someone from getting a piece that could beat you, you have to go that route too. But again, it's all about, if you understand that type of strategy in fantasy. Some people understand that blocking is essential, Nice lateral there. Stand with Ukraine in the building. What's good? Nice little hook and ladder. Timeout is called. He was at the Husky game with Brian Wu. Appreciate you. reflect. Anything that you want to be able to see, let me know. Hopefully this will be a Mariner for life. Be a big mistake if we don't have that. Like, he's more valuable than Julio. Julio will always be more popular, but not as valuable as Cal. 4th down and 1. Mahomes. There we go. 1st down, Chiefs. Kareem Hunt, baby. Keep getting me some fantasy points. I mean, especially if you can run against good defenses. But again, Saints do have some injuries, but still, it's going to be kind of a difficult task to run efficiently. 13.8 already for Kareem Hunt. Hell yeah. I like that. Handoff again. Ooh, big hit. Yep. No, yeah. Yeah, I know. I know you already feel that with his agent and the money he's moving on, but I just have to have the faith that we're going to be able to, keep him in Seattle, but again, if they want to let the best player in the organization go, then that's the Seattle Mariners for you. So, but I hope he ends up being a Mariner for life. Nothing would make me happier, Like, I would rather have Cal for his whole career than Julio for his whole career. That's saying something, but I love catchers. I love the leadership. He makes the pitchers better. He's a good defender, switch hitter, best home run hitter, best clutch hitter, but again, if the Mariners don't value someone like that and, he ends up going somewhere else, I'll still root for him wherever he goes. I didn't buy a rookie card auto of Cal his rookie year for nothing. For me to buy a rookie auto of anyone not Julio, that has to be someone pretty special. So, but we'll see. We'll see where he goes. I mean, he would be good anywhere. I mean, if he ended up joining the Yankees, I mean, that definitely could be a piece that could take them over the top if he went to a team like that. But I don't know where he would end up, but obviously he definitely deserves every dollar. Yeah, but talk about being screwed. Who also got screwed is the Seahawks with the Giants when they pushed down on the center, and then they had the guy leap over him after they pushed him down on the shoulder. That's illegal, right? That should have been reviewed, and that should have been a penalty, and that shouldn't have counted. So again, we have a lot of these plays, and every play that is a field goal should be reviewed. Like, there should always be a review to make sure, because you're not supposed to be able to jump over the top, and you're not supposed to be able to touch, the center when he's hiking the ball and smashing his shoulder into the ground and make him fuck the snap up, and then having a guy leap over him on the other side and then block that field goal. So, everything should be reviewed in that particular instance, but, that was a big screw job, I mean, even if Cal ends up on the Yankees or wherever, I'm just hoping and praying, unless Cal ends up taking less money and staying in Seattle. I mean, that I guess is an option, but I'm not sure if he would be willing to do that because he deserves to be paid. But I guess it just depends on if he loves Seattle and the Pacific Northwest, that the extra millions of dollars doesn't matter to him, and he wants to play with the guys there in Seattle. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a Saint sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Chase Young. Looking like the Chase Young at the Ohio State University, or maybe when he was on the Commandos early in his career. Well, jumping the gap, again, obviously is legal, but when you push a shoulder down, I don't know, have you seen the replay? I've seen the replay a couple times on my social media feed, but, pushing a guy his shoulder down to try to have him fuck up the snap, and I don't know. I think that should have definitely been reviewed, so, but, shit happens, again, we already know with injuries and whatnot, and also with just bad calls by the refs. Hopefully you feel a little bit better. 3rd and 14. Little check down. B-Ryan. Ooh, big hit. Short of the marker. Yeah, maybe we need to go through the rule book and be able to see like what's legal and what's illegal and what's legal. I mean, there's so many rules, you know. Field goal up and good. 13-7 Chiefs. I don't know how I feel about this first ever crown jewel champion. Cody Rhodes and Gunther. I don't know about that. They're going over different options here. Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn. Nia and Liv. Automatic for Butker. 13-7 Kansas City. We're at 4:96 to go. All right, we're getting close to 20. We're at 18. If you're in the room and haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Now we're at 19. Thank you so much. We need one more to get to 20. And speaking of 20, Megan with a 20. Thank you so much. Even with the migraine coming through and showing some love and support, we love you, we miss you, and we hope that you feel better. One more like to get to 20. Appreciate you. Now we're at 24. Thank you so much. Let me know what you want to do for photos, you and Reflect. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks, little cactus jack, bang, bang. AM in the building. What's good? I did see a video of JSN running down the field, pretending that he was going to end up getting a ball when Gino went for a run. That's good football awareness. That's good football IQ. And hopefully that'll be something that JSN continuously does to be able to get two guys out of the 11 out of the play. And that could give more run opportunities for yards after the catch. For a guy in the flat like Charbonnet, or someone running the ball like Kenneth Walker III, or maybe even just a regular quarterback run from Gino like he did on that particular play. Hungry Hippos, but with Chief players, huh? Yeah, I was going to say there has to be some kind of clarification. You can push down on the back, not head or neck. Okay. I knew there had to be some kind of clarification there. Deep shot, incomplete. You need 3.5 from Olave. You'll get it. Second half. They always go to Rashid Shaheed deep, but Olave will get something going in the second half. I mean, if it's only 3.5 points, there's a good chance that Olave will get a touchdown. And if he doesn't, I still think that there's a good chance for him to get, 40 to 60 yards. If he ends up getting a tutty, then you'll end up getting 10 to 13 points. But, I still think even if he doesn't score, you should hit 3.5. You just you're going to have to wait till the second half. Just flow of the game has not got him involved yet. Captain Oreo in the building. What's good? AM in the building. What's good? Minute 14 left here in the second quarter. 13-7 Chiefs. Jamal Williams, what are you doing? Are you kneeling it? Are you not kneeling it? Like, you're out of the end zone, bud. You got to go. His knee almost touches. Imagine being down at the inch-yard line doing something stupid like that. Have some field awareness, Jamal. I know you love Pokemon, but goddamn, got to catch them all. Carr, little check down. Got him. Big tackle there. Big sniff out. Yeah, well, maybe you guys can run it on other teams now. It sucks that you just, it had to come to that point, for that to happen. But again, injuries are nothing to shy away from. Again, like both of our teams, and even the Saints, they have injuries. I got injuries. Hawks have injuries. And sometimes when you have injuries, the key guys, there's nothing you can do. Sometimes you'll lose to top tier teams. Sometimes you'll lose to bottom feeder teams, that you have no business in losing to because of the injuries, And you can have a next man up mentality, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the same type of talent level coming in, unfortunately. Saints with a punt here. End over end. It's like, why are the Chiefs not getting Xavier Worthy the ball? And what about Chris Olave? So I would assume at halftime, they will make a point to get both of those guys the ball in the second half. They're too explosive of playmakers not to get opportunities in the third and fourth quarter. Yeah. Well, again, some fans are smart and some fans are not, Again, you can't blame it necessarily on him when the injuries are there, Again, it's like, if you win a game when you have injuries and you don't even hear him talk about it, but when you lose a game when you have injuries, it's not like everyone was full strength and you lost. And again, he is the perfect coach for the team. When you get guys injured, especially if they're key guys, and again, it's not like the defense has been very good, anyways, like, in previous years with Pete, after the Legion of Boom got dismantled, it's like, the main problems for the Hawks were defense and the offensive line. So it's not like, in year number one, McDonald is going to be able to turn it around to a top 5 D, a Ravens baby D immediately. And then when you end up having your two best defensive linemen out and your linebackers out, I mean, what do you expect, But again, some Hawks fans are smart and some are stupid, just like every fan base, Unfortunately, there you go. Nice catch. First down, Chiefs. Some people understand football and some people don't. Some people can watch the games, but that doesn't mean that they know what's going on, and that's just the reality of things. So, yeah. And obviously, you don't want DK to have fumbles or drops, especially if he's going to be a top tier guy. But this is the NFL. I mean, shit happens. No one's going to be perfect, For all the, couch GMs that are complaining, it's not like they can fucking do better. It's like you just got to be able to understand that you're at a point where guys are hurt. It's going to be rough. And it's not just you. Every team that's got injuries is getting fucked up right now. The Saints, 2-0. And they're probably going to go down to 2-3 and lose 3 in a row. The Buccaneers, I fucking lost to the Broncos. Jesus Christ. I think the Bucs are one of the best teams in football, and I got my ass kicked by the Broncos. You guys lost to the Giants. I mean, these are teams that we should have beat. But again, when you got key guys out, it's hard to win. It's not an excuse. It's reality. Second down and 10. 41 seconds left. Shotgun set. Mahomes scrambling, a little bootleg. Throw to the sideline. Juju Smith-Schuster with the short game. Yeah, I mean, like I said, everyone loves the dog pile, when the teams are weak, but of course they don't say anything when, the team is winning, because they don't have any ammo or anything to say, But, nobody needs to get cut, Lockett or DK. No one needs to get fired, People that are saying that aren't even real fans. They just like to stir the pot, and just argue. There's just certain people that love to argue and love to hear their own voice and love to be able to stir the pot and talk shit, Yeah, and again, coaches are going to take risks and they're going to make mistakes, and then they have to learn from it. It's like, sometimes teams are going to go for it on fourth down. Sometimes teams are, going to go for a field goal and maybe they shouldn't, or maybe they should. Like there's all kinds of circumstances. Kelsey, out of bounds. But things will get back on track. Obviously, and you got to also realize, right? Like with the division that you're in, it's, like you guys did have first place and you were at the top, right? But it's not like the Niners are doing good. It's not like the Niners are 5-0. The Rams and Cardinals, Rams are beat up. The Cardinals flash from time to time with Kyler, but it still feels like it could be Seahawks or Niners, at the top of the NFC West. So it's not like you're in last place after being in first place. Like it's not like the Niners are 5-0 and healthy, with McCaffrey. So, everyone is having their issues right now with injuries or poor play. It's just that everyone else kind of caught up to you, after having a nice lead in first place at the top, Yeah, I think 7 is a little low based off wins, because that would mean that you'd only be going 7-10. Seahawks are good enough to be a wild card team or win the division if healthy. To me, they're a 10-12 team kind of win, type of team if healthy. But if not, then yeah, you might go down to 7-9 wins if they don't end up being healthy for the full year. But hopefully that's not the case. But I don't know. I just 7-10 is, it is possible it could happen, but I mean that would mean that injuries are bad. Like Kenneth Walker III misses another month in the season or something, or DK goes down for a month, or the defensive players keep getting hurt. And then 7-10 could be a reality. But I hope that doesn't happen for you guys. Kick is up and good. Butker getting some fantasy points for Megan. 16-7. Chiefs. We got Gunther on Monday Night Raw. Yeah, of course, I don't think really the Cardinals or Rams are a threat. The Niners are the only threat in the division, really. But, again, they haven't really looked very good up to this point either. No McCaffrey. And, again, with their individuals, it's like, some games the Niners will look good and other games they'll get exposed. But it hasn't really been pretty for them either. The Niners have started slow the last couple years and still have made it to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. But I did see a graphic, within the first 10 games, if you go back and look at the Niners record, it's usually not very good, to start off the season. They typically get hot, after week 8, week 9, week 10. And they might end up having a sub 500 record, within the first 8 to 10 weeks. So there is going to be, room to be able to, stay at the top or catch up to them. But again, they have injuries, and yours are more significant because they got Jordan Mason, who can still get a touchdown in the end zone, 1 or 2 or 3, like a McCaffrey. But your defensive starters that are out on the line and the linebackers, you don't have anyone to fill in that can fill the gap. And, you're getting exposed, just like Tampa's getting exposed with our shit defense and no Antoine Winfield Jr. It's just fucking terrible. Rashid Shaheed with a good return there as we go into halftime. 16-7 Chiefs. Let me know what I can do for photos for you. First halftime lead since week 1 versus the Ravens. But reflect, anything that you want to see, let me know. I'll get you some regulars. There's a handsome fella to make you feel better. Sami Zayn and Gunther on Monday Night Raw. Allstate halftime report. All kinds of handsome fellas. Second half will start in about 10 minutes. Awesome jersey, awesome helmet. Awesome hair. Wish I had some. I used to when I was a kid. Oh, I imagine. It's always good to be able to look at throwbacks, you know. That's why I like watching like throwback cartoons and just throwback movies and listening to like 80s and 90s music. And, you know, I know, you know, some people know with like, you know, the Rickroll concept and whatnot. But, you know, one of my favorite songs is the whole Rickroll concept. With Rick and, you know, Rick Astley with the Never Gonna Give You Up. Like, I don't know. There's just certain songs that whenever I hear them, it puts me in like a good mood. And that's like one of my favorite songs of all time, even before the whole Rickroll thing kind of came out. You know, there's just certain songs that, you know, they mean something to you or put a smile on your face. And, you know, it's crazy. I ended up going on YouTube and I found a remastered version of the song that is like in 4K, like, you know, the frame rate is like, you know, the top of the line. And it was amazing to go back and watch the music video, obviously at its highest point. You know, it's, let me see where it's at right here. It's 4K, 60 frames per second, and it's remastered. It is awesome to be able to watch a music video from 1987. Right? They made this about 3 years ago with the remaster, with the Rickroll. It's got 4.4 million views, and it is awesome. The details that you can see in that music video when obviously it's, you know, cleaned up and you don't have any distortion and you get 4K, 60 frames per second. Oh my God. I had to sing it to Paisley when we were after our long walk yesterday. It was awesome, man. Like, I don't know. I like being able to, you know, find things like that, you know, things that are touched up, that are old, and then you can see them in its purest form based off the technology that we have. Incredible. And again, like I said, everyone's going to have something like that, you know, whether it's like Green Day and Dookie, or if I can go back and watch or listen to something with the Beatles. Like, sometimes you need that in your life. And I feel that, you know, in my house, I have 60s music on all day. And again, it's like, you know, I can listen to 80s and I can listen to 90s music, but I feel like, you know, as an OG, if you end up listening to stuff from like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s and 90s, a lot of it is just so much better than what they have now within the last 25 years. Like, you know, are there artists and singers and performers that are awesome in the last 25 years? Yes. But I feel like more it's like more popularity now instead of like substance and quality. And lyrics were much better back in the day. Lyrics that actually had meaning, that make you feel an emotion, that make you want to smile, make you want to cry, make you feel motivated. And I feel with a lot of the stuff that's out now, it doesn't do that. At least it doesn't do it for me, you know. And I love having that in the house. And I think the simple fact of having that 60 music in the house every day for hours on end, you know, and also, you know, being able to spend time with Paisley has been a big part of my mental health boost, besides exercising and eating better. You know, I have never felt better in my life. And again, I don't really have problems with mental health anymore when I did, you know, but again, I got rid of the toxic girlfriend and the toxic friends, you know, got Paisley, you know, dedicated my life to her to make sure that she could be happy, which entails makes me happy, you know, and again, sometimes you got to be able to, you know, make those minor adjustments. Man, but that 4K remastered, I'm never going to give you up. It's like, it's up there for me. If it's not my favorite song, it's one of my, I love the music video as well. I don't know, there's something about the music videos and the sounds of the 80s. Like as soon as you hear music from movies and video games, cartoons, commercials, you know it's from that time period from like the 80s and 90s, and I fucking love it. Fucking love it. Yeah, but there's not as much good music. You know, they have their agendas and they push, you know, certain artists and whatnot, but you know, I'm not sure how many legends that are or icons that we have in the last 25 years, you know. Like, you know, you can have people like you know, Jelly Roll, you know, that can make a significant impact on the youth and people that have been struggling with drinking and with addiction and, you know, and whatnot. But I'm not going to go and say that Jelly Roll is better than the Beatles or Ozzy Osbourne or, you know, someone, you know, like that. Like, you know, like I said, you know, there's going to be different favorites for different eras based on how old you are. But again, you know, every group is going to be different based off your age, you know, but I just feel like the music that's been put out in the last 24, 25 years, it doesn't really compare to a lot of the other stuff from, you know, previous generations. But, you know, there's still going to be impactful artists that are out there, whether it's country or rock, you know, but I don't know, man. I just feel that nowadays it's definitely driven more by popularity based off talent, you know, and it's not like, oh, this guy's talented or this girl's talented, let's give them the proper push because they're talented. No, it's like they're going for who's ever popular on social media, and they may not even really be that good of a performer, but they're just pushing that for whatever agenda to be able to get the likes and the views. And, you know, I guess that's what, you know, happens nowadays. You know, it is what it is. All right, I gotta delete these to make some more room. Reflect anything that you want to be able to see photo-wise, anything Husky-wise, Seahawk-wise, anything in general, you let me know. Got a few minutes here before we get into the third quarter. Got Monday Night Raw on here as well. Gunther and Sami Zayn going at it. All right, we hit 20 likes. We're at 21. We need 9 more to get to 30, and then that's the goal. So we need 8 more. Thank you so much to whoever that was. We're at 22 now. 8 more before the game ends, and we're at the goal. And then obviously we'll see where we can get on the dono train as well. Maybe one of your favorite artists. If you got someone like alternative or rock or someone that you grew up with or someone that has an impact on your life that has made a difference, someone that you listen to when you're down or you need a little pick-me-up, you know, I feel like, you know, there's definitely a few, you know, different artists that, you know, can make me, you know, get back into the groove of things. I like Red Hot Chili Peppers. I like old school Green Day. Ozzy anything, Black Sabbath anything. If I hear something old school Beatles, I can hear a song like the Rick Roll with the Never Gonna Give You Up, and and it's like I can listen to the song, but like watching the music video while listening to it makes it even better. It's such an iconic music video. It's so fucking 80s that I love it. And it's like even in the hip hop game, it's like you look at the intelligent rappers like J. Cole and like Kendrick, they're amazing, and you can get people that are pushed like Drake, on radio and whatnot. And some of his stuff is good. Some of it's a lot of his early stuff was good like Kanye, but a lot of the recent stuff is very hit or miss. I guess it kind of really just depends on what you look for in a particular artist, or if you like someone that's like underground, like Tech Nine, that's always been good and never has gotten a push or any type of radio help whatsoever, but still has a great following. Nirvana, yeah. I like Nirvana a lot. Me and my best friend Justin, we're really big on Kurt Cobain. We like Nirvana a lot. Like, again, it all kind of depends if it has like Northwest ties, the grunge scene, and it also depends on how old you are, where you live. But yeah. All right, Olave needs to get some points for AM so he can actually win in fantasy. And only needing like 3? I mean, we're talking about 40 yards, 36 yards or more, which is not really a lot, but they haven't been doing a good job getting him the football like they normally focus on him. And you can go to Rashid Shaheed, but intermediate, they've been going more Juwan Johnson and some of the others. So hopefully Xavier Worthy gets some opportunities to show what he can do. And then hopefully we can get Olave with some points. All right, here we go. Third quarter. Carson Steele with a decent return. Another individual that definitely needs to be fired, Dennis Allen. You're a coordinator, not a head coach. And hopefully at some point or another, they'll realize that. It's like with like Nathaniel Hackett and some of these guys, it's like, when you put a coordinator as a head coach, that's a lot of pressure. And if you don't have the leadership skills to do it, it's okay to say, I'm a good play caller and that's it. It's like Josh McDaniels, you can call plays, but as a head coach, you're terrible. Like some guys are just meant to be play callers and that is it. And that's okay, to be known as one of the top 5, top 10 defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators. But sometimes when you have these guys that try to take on too much of a role, calling plays and being a head coach, it's too much. And a lot of guys fail. Here's a new Cobain photography exhibit at Tacoma. Oh, gosh, I got to go. Ooh, I got to go. I got to tell my friend about that. A lot of times when I have old Cobain, photos from his childhood, I'll send them to my buddy. Like anything that I end up finding Kurt Cobain that's like rare, I send it to him. But we were thinking about doing like a road trip, up to, some of his childhood areas and whatnot. And, obviously we try to, do that with like the Goonies and the Goonies house and stuff like that too. But if there's stuff in Oregon and Washington that's tied to a movie, Kindergarten Cop, Goonies, or something like Kurt Cobain, and Nirvana, that is always something that's kind of interesting to me and Justin. So 3rd down and 2. Yeah, I guess what Macklemore said, that he hated America, and then they decided not to play his music anymore in Seattle for like Mariner games. Yeah, in the 7th inning stretch. I guess for some people that's controversial or whatever. Saying that he feels the way that where things are at right now is not what he likes. But I'm not sure if that. I didn't be able to go in full detail to everything that he said. But, if he's got opinions of America, I'm not really sure that it entails of not having his music played at Mariner games anymore, because of that statement. But I guess that's what happened. Handoff up the middle to Steele, short game. But I think putting McLemore and putting him, on the map for the Pacific Northwest was cool. He definitely has had a positive impact, on a lot of individuals' lives. Oh, really? Man, where is the Tacoma Art Museum? Is it by the Tacoma Dome? Like, how far away is the art museum? I might have to tell my buddy about that. He would love that. We would definitely take a lot of pictures, and it would be a cool little road trip. Only about an hour and a half away from us here in Oregon, Tacoma. So it would be a little bit of a road trip, but not as far as Seattle, 3 hours and 30 minutes. So. Yeah. I mean, anytime an artist, or athlete or, figure, public figure, says something that might not be taken by a lot of people in the right way, you're going to get different opinions here and there. And yeah, I imagine some people have canceled him and not listened to his music and will support him anymore. But I know some people that are still going to. So Noah Gray, first down, Chiefs, move the chains. I've never been to the art museum, but I just assumed that maybe it's by the Tacoma Dome. But last time I was at the Tacoma Dome, I went to a wrestling event where I got to see like Stone Cold and The Rock, but that was way, way back, like 25 years ago. Was it like 99, 2000? First down and 10. Handoff, and good defense there by the Saints. Brzee with the cackle with the short game there by Hunt, I believe. Monday Night Raw is over, so it's time for Royals and Yankees if it's still going on here. Mahomes. All right, 4-1 Royals in the bottom of the seventh. Yankees trying to make a run. All right, I got the Yankees and Royals on here as well now, since Monday Night Raw is over. Thursday's free, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. What does it cost to go there? Going deep and complete. Like, what's a general admission ticket to the art museum? Like, what does that cost? Are we talking like $12, something like that? Where they can still get a little bit of dollars, and it's not like, $20, $30, but it's like respectable, like 12 to 15, something like that. Well, that's a flag. Paulson Adebo. Wow, no PI there. Yeah. That's why I like old school stuff. Like Tupac was intelligent. Like if you listen to his delivery, and 51-yarder, no good by Butker. Like, it's like you have Biggie, and, his flow was definitely New York and East Coast, and I love him too. But I think like as far as storytelling, and being able to, have a certain type of influence, and, not just being a guy that's just a rapper. Someone that actually went into schooling and was educated and was in movies and actually had an impact on society. Like, he was very unique, and we haven't seen a Tupac since. There's been others, that are intelligent like a Kendrick Lamar, and that can do amazing things, on the microphone and storytelling as well. But, Tupac was a one-on-one, man. And it's like I find myself wanting to listen to more older stuff than necessarily newer. Like, of course, if something's got a catchy beat, I'll take a listen. Whether it's Travis Scott or Future or Drake or whatever. But I appreciate the things that I feel that some generations are not understanding, like how good it really was back in that generation. $18. Oh, that's not too bad. How long is the exhibit going for? Do you know when the photography exhibit is it gonna be up for a little while? Like, how much time do I have before they shut it down? Do you know? And we're in the bottom of the seventh, 4-1 Royals. Oh, it just opened. Okay, cool. I'm going to message my friend right now and tell him. I just sent it to him. So we should consider that. That would be a cool road trip. Open Saturday, and it's going to be open. Oh, it's almost a year. Awesome. Oh, not a year, half a year until May. It's October now. Okay. Thank you for that information. Third down, Carr. Check down. First down, Saints. Foster Moreau. Will be up until May 25th, 2025. AK with the toss. So I just sent him that. Yeah, we'll definitely go. If it's going to be up until May and it's October now, even though it's a little bit of a drive, we can always get food afterwards, and we can make like a little, day of it where we go in the morning, and then go to that exhibit, and then on the way back, maybe get like Popeyes or something, or, some kind of meal, on the way back, and have like a day of it. Charles Peterson's Nirvana on photography and performance. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Carr going deep. One-on-one and complete. Rashid Shaheed with another deep target. 3rd down and 7. So are the photos done by people that took photos of Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, or are there actually things that Kurt took himself and made himself there? Is it like anything like with him personally, or is it people that had access to him in Nirvana that ended up doing the artwork or the photos of him? I'm not sure if you would know that answer, but I figured I'd ask. 3rd and 7. 8:06 left in the third. Yeah, but we are huge Kurt Cobain, like Nirvana people, like Green Day, Nirvana, that whole grunge type of, in Seattle, like we're all over that. Flag on the play. Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. Yeah, like if we can maybe figure out on a time and day that maybe you could meet us there, that'd be awesome, dude. I mean, especially if we have until May, it's not like we would have to make it like, oh, let's go this weekend, or, we have to like rush. Like we got plenty of time to, like, it doesn't even have to necessarily be this year. We could do it like next year. Royals 4, Yankees 1. How far away? How far away from Tacoma are you? Is it like hours away for you, or are you like decently close to that area? Not too far of a drive. 3rd and 12. It'd be about an hour and a half for us, but definitely well worth it. Shotgun set. Car, 3rd and 12. Uh-oh, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Yeah, and I only road trip typically with Justin. That's the only person that I'll typically do that with. So, I mean, I don't really hang out with too many people. It'll be pretty much just him, and then that's it. And then Paisley. I still got to check up on my friend Joey and his wife Jamie, and then their son Augustine. I haven't seen them in 6, 7 months, 8 months, and it's overdue that, but I'm just so busy here with the channel and you guys and Paisley. I haven't had, a chance to go, and they don't live too far from me, which is good. Justin only lives about 15 minutes away, and Joey only lives maybe 5 to 10 minutes away, but we've just been busy. So 20, 30 minutes. Nice. Okay. From Longview. Oh, okay. Photos of fans in the 80s and 90s. Oh, Buffalo. Wow. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, too bad the NBA stinks, but I mean, good for him. Gets an opportunity to be able to take over for Woj for the breaking news. I'm going to go grab a drink here real quick. Give me 1 sec. Like, sub, donate, comment, share, help your boy out. Royals 4, Yankees 1, Chiefs up by 1 billion. All right, I had to get myself a water. Grunge photographer. That's fucking cool, man. And I know not everyone is going to be into that type of, music and scene and whatnot, but I feel with me, like, when I grew up, I was more like hip hop, but I feel that like my love for wrestling, kind of got me into more like rock and grunge and alternative music. And then just having friends, that were more on the rock side rather than the rap side. And then just being open to different types of music and artists. I'm glad that I, wasn't anti-grunge or anti, rock or alternative. I'm glad that I was open-minded, to be able to have that music be a part of my life. So sometimes rap just doesn't cut it, like, even though I love rap, but there's a lot of garbage rap that's out nowadays. And if I had my choice, I would listen to old stuff rather than new. So McCall Hardman with another catch. Royals in very firm control here against the Yankees, about to tie up the series 1-1. Lots of 1-1. Shows you anything can happen in the playoffs. Everyone thinking that, one team is going to go all the way, and not so fast. Kareem Hunt again. There we go, baby. Give me some fantasy points. First down, Chiefs. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if anyone ends up coming through, to Oregon or Washington, depending on where I'm at, and obviously I'm still trying to save up for a used truck. But again, I had to get a lot of my other, debts paid off, and things paid back, and I'm just trying to be able to take care of Paisley. I'm not really spending any money on myself, and obviously the next purchase that I end up hopefully getting, will be like a used truck, nothing crazy, $1,000 to $2,500, something like that. But obviously it's going to take me quite a while to save up that kind of money, unless for whatever reason the donos get, much, much higher, then I'll be able to get one sooner than later. But I haven't had a vehicle in a while, so it would be nice to be able to have one that works, that's functional. So Kareem Hunt with another game. Looks like a first down. $2026. Yeah, looking forward to it. Mahomes saying, is that a first down or not? Third down? I thought he got it. 3rd and 1, supposedly. We're at 24. 76 to go. Are they going to halfback dive it with Steele? Yep. The Brews are back. First down, Chiefs. Even though there was a first down on that Kareem Hunt previous play, but, it is what it is. Wish I was rich so I could actually go to Autzen this Saturday to watch Ohio State and Oregon, but no, I don't got the money for that. But I will be live streaming it here. But I wish I could go. That would be an amazing experience. I mean, technically I could, but tickets are a little too much. Mahomes going long, going deep, one-on-one. Paulson and Debo again on Xavier Worthy. First down, Chiefs. I mean, Xavier Worthy's fast. I love it. 16.1. It's a good sign. Not only can I keep him for the rest of the year, I might actually be able to use him. Yeah, she has the most points out of anybody this whole year. Good for her. But remember, she's no slouch. She actually won the league, in one of her first years doing fantasy when I kind of taught her how to play. And, she ended up drafting DK and Jetta in one of her first seasons, and they went off. And that was enough with a lot of the other pieces that she had to win it all. So 184. Wow. Now, if Xavier Worthy can get into the end zone and get the ball a few more times, she might be able to hit 200, but depending on what happens, obviously, if he ends up getting in the end zone and adding some yardage to it. But still, a 184 is ridiculous. Yeah. Well, also, too, it's the first time that I put in 12 options on the wire. When you end up losing 3 weeks in a row, I knew I had 5 spots and I put in 12 requests because I already knew some of the people are going to take some of the pieces. But I was thinking, well, if everyone's sleeping, I can just wake up in the middle of the night and see what's left, and then I can make adjustments at that point. But I tried to scoop in as many pieces as I could, and you got to be able to make drastic moves, when you end up having a shitty record. So. Yeah, but also her team is very hit or miss. When she has, Burrow and Chase playing well, then whoever plays her is fucked. But if they don't have a good week, you are probably going to be able to beat her. And she knows that too. She's had some underwhelming weeks, But when Burrow and Chase go off in the same game together, that's going to be the week that's going to be very difficult to beat her, especially when you run, doubles like that. Like, I was telling with Captain Oreo, it's like you got Brees and you got Garrett Wilson, and that could be good if they win. But if the team loses, there's a chance where your number might be very low for both, where you're combining for 10, not combining for 80, and that's, you want to make sure if you're doubling up, you want to double up on a team that's got a good record and that is going to be a good team, not a team that might be bad, like, with the Jets. Like, you want to double up with like the Lions players, double up, with like Buccaneers, but if you double up on a team like the Jets, you're running a high risk, unless the Jets end up being a playoff team, which I'm not sure if they're going to be. So that's the risk that you run when you end up doubling up with 2 and 3 guys at the same time. If the team wins, you rake and you eat. But if the team loses and there's not enough opportunities there, then you're looking up at your scoreboard and saying, fucking A, what happened? But again, it's not necessarily all Brees's fault or Garrett Wilson's fault. It's really Salah's fault, Aaron Rodgers, and that offensive line and the offensive coordinator. That's the fucking problem. We already know Garrett Wilson could be in the same category as Jamar Chase and Jay Jetta and Amon-Ra, but he just doesn't get the goddamn ball enough. Aaron Rodgers decides to go to Allen the Lizard Lazard more because he's more comfortable with his former player on the Packers, even though Garrett Wilson's a better player. Intercepted! There you go. Wow. Go, big man, go. First down, Saints, and they just saved their chances of getting blown out on that big play. Nice interception by the big man. Yeah, Rodgers stinks, Salah stinks, and Nathaniel Hackett stinks. They all stink. Rodgers is too old, Salah's terrible, and Nathaniel Hackett's terrible. Brees Hall is good, Garrett Wilson is good. The Jets defense is typically pretty good. Sauce Gardner is good, but they don't have the right pieces, coaching, calling the plays, or quarterbacking that team. It's very clear. Good awareness by the big man to get that with your left hand. And look at him rumble and bumble for 30, 40 yards after. Very cool. Rumbling and a stumbling. Yeah, but also too, Carr is not a very good quarterback either. He's a scheme quarterback, and obviously it worked when he was on the Raiders, even though they didn't have an offensive line or a defense. But you had Josh Jacobs, you had Devontae Adams, you had Darren Waller, and an offense that suited him perfectly, just like he had at Fresno State. And then now you put him on a team trying to run a different style of offense. It just doesn't fucking work. He is just not a fit there. It's very clear. But again, that's what they decided to do. So. And I like Braylon Allen. He's talented. Hackett's dad is replaced by Pete. Yeah. I know Pete is teaching. It's always cool to be able to see him on social media here and there, show up for like a sporting event here and there. And obviously we've seen Belichick, he ended up being at the Husky game against Michigan for the very first time, and saw a few interviews, between Pat McAfee show and a few others, how he said how he loved the environment, and they do have a good environment there. I might be a Duck fan, but I'm not stupid. Huskies, I got some passionate fans up there, and I wouldn't be shocked if we end up losing to the Huskies at the end of the year. I don't even know if we're going to be able to beat Ohio State. I just hope that we don't get embarrassed. And if we do lose, I hope we lose by like 3. It's close, but who knows? Ohio State is good enough to beat us by 10, 13, 17 or more, but I hope it's not like that. Hopefully the crowd will keep us in the game. And if we win, we're the number one team in the country. So I don't know if that will happen or how long we will be able to stay there, but still a good feat to be able to have, even though that we haven't looked that great throughout the whole season. First couple weeks, terrible. Oregon State, we look good. Michigan State, we look good. So like half of the games we look good. The other half we look terrible. So we'll see what version of the Oregon Ducks we get against Ohio State at Autzen this Saturday. Must see TV, baby. Yeah, Huskies look good. Are you guys in the top 25 yet, or are you guys still getting disrespected? I know you guys got a couple losses, but still. There you go. Nice interception there by Saunders. Good awareness with that left hand. Yeah. Also, 2 quarterbacks shooting yourselves in the foot and just, mental errors, penalties. Just clean that up a little bit. And like I said, even though you guys have had a lot of guys in the NFL, Michael Penix Jr., Rome, Jalen McMillan, Culp, many, many guys, right? And obviously losing your head coach to Alabama. You guys are much better, than anyone anticipated. Like I said, even with the mistakes. Flag on the play. Nice catch by Rashid Shaheed. I guess Chris Olave doesn't exist in this game. Right. I think a lot of us thought you guys were going to beat Michigan. Like, I already kind of respected what you guys did. It's not like the other teams have beaten you. You've beaten yourself. And when that's the case, when you beat up yourself, the losses sting a little bit more because it's like you could have won. It's like it's like you got to be able to have the best version of Washington out there, and it's not like the other teams have just beaten you down. Like, you just kind of had some questionable play calling and like obviously in that Washington State game, that play call was not right. And again, just kind of shooting yourselves in the foot. But you really haven't been beat by anybody. You've beaten yourselves. So that's a good thing. I mean, it's not good because you want the record to be clean, but it's like no one's really beaten you yet. You've beaten yourself. So if you can clean those mistakes up, you might not lose that many games for the rest of the year. So I think the only advantage that we have against Washington is that we're going to be at home. We're not going to be in Seattle because obviously in Seattle, that's definitely a trap game. But being in Autzen, we could still lose, but we'll definitely have the crowd behind us to hopefully will us to victory. But if we do lose that last regular season game, I wouldn't be surprised. I got mad respect for them. I understand how good they are. First down and 10, Carr. AK-41. Gets pushed back. Yeah. Royals still up 4-1. We're in the 9th now. But Yankees aren't going to be able to come back from this. Pitching and defense, baby. And again, you could be the greatest hitting team in baseball all year round, but if your pitching and defense stink, you got no chance. Chris Jones riding Carr's grill right there. .429. Also, Michigan's overrated. Their quarterback issues, Orgy and whatnot. Like, you already knew, like watching them, because obviously I watch almost every game that they play, Ohio State and Michigan, to kind of, scout them, for our Pacific Northwest teams that have joined this division for the Huskies and the Trojans and the Ducks and obviously with the UCLA Bruins and whatnot. But yeah, they Huskies, definitely are underrated. Wolverines overrated. Yeah, that's another one that should have been a Washington dub for sure. Frustrating though, huh? Because I mean, you like when you look at the schedule, you feel like you should be 5-0, right? Like there's no, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like Washington State game, that should have been yours. They might have a athletic quarterback at Washington State for the Cougs that can run and throw, but the adjustments weren't made. And then the play calling was horrendous there at the end, right? And then just kind of shooting yourselves in the foot with the Rutgers game. But things will get better, more recruits will come in, and again, hopefully you guys will be able to build up that roster like you guys did with Michael Penix Jr. One day. I mean, there's got to be someone that makes purple look cool in college football. Like you got Northwestern, but it doesn't have the same swag as the Huskies. Chiefs are offside in the neutral zone. We're at 27. Chris Jones offside. I'll definitely be watching you guys. Carr just slams it into the turf. Chris Jones all up in his grill. End of the third quarter, 16-7. Chiefs. And hopefully we can get the Trojans back in the win column. Again, it's like, sometimes, when you end up moving to a new division and you end up playing these physical, teams, even though they may not be the top tier teams, they might be in the middle. It shows you have to bring it. Just like in the Pac-12, anybody can beat anyone on any given week in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten. And that was a little surprising, for the Trojans to get the L this weekend, but hopefully they can get back on track. I still like a lot of their players on the roster, but it shows you, man, it's definitely going to be a transitional period for all of us, for the Ducks, the Huskies, the Trojans, and the Bruins. It's not going to just be easy peasy lemon squeezy and we're all at the top of the division in someone else's division. Like, they're going to be doing everything to beat us, to say, hey, this is our division, not yours, right? So, yeah, USC, Iowa, and Oregon. Yeah, Belichick's son is part of the Huskies. Hulu is trying to beg me to come back. $2.99 a month for 6 months. That's a good deal. But I have been using the DVR in the living room to kind of catch up on, Simpsons and Bob's Burgers and all of the new shows that dropped in the fall lineup. So as long as I would rather watch shows in my room, rather than watch them in the living room. But, I guess if I can save money any way I can. But that's a damn cheap price. They're just begging me to come back. New season of Law and Order SVU just ended up getting underway last week. Highly recommend if you're a fan of that show. And if you, depending on if you have cable or satellite, obviously if you have Peacock, you can end up watching it on there, obviously linked with NBC and whatnot, and they'll end up showing the episode a day later. But, if it ends up being late at night anyways, and you might have to watch it the next day anyways, it's usually not that big of a deal. So I love me some SVU. Now I just got to wait for Organized Crime. Once that goes to Peacock and streaming only, then they haven't released the date on when that's going to be back, but I can't wait for that. Hand off to AK-41 Alvin Kamara. Short gain on 1st and goal. Touchdown, Saints. Saints actually battling back. And this is a very similar score and game script as we had in the Cowboys and the Steelers, except we got the touchdowns a little bit faster in this one. Less field goals, more touchdowns, even though we've seen Butker, do some kicking here today. But I think this one's been a little bit more entertaining with better players than the Cowboys and Steelers last night. Nice play action there by Carr, wide open. Look at that. Touchdown, Saints, baby. Foster Moreau. Nice, well-designed play there by the Saints. Nice job, Nolans. This is a game that you have no business in winning, but, if you can end up getting a couple stops or a big turnover, you might be able to steal this one in the fourth quarter. Might come down to whoever has the ball last and might end up winning the game. Great job by Foster Moreau engaging in the block and then going off the block and getting open and being that open tight end target that Carr needed. Extra point is missed. Golly, Jesus Christ, really? Groupie with no groupies. Uh-oh. And that might cost them the game. Because if you ended up getting it to 16-14, you get a stop and a late field goal, maybe you end up winning 17-16, but now that's over. Now the best thing that you can pray for is tying it up with a field goal. But I highly doubt the Chiefs are done. There's probably a high possibility for them to get a field goal or a touchdown or more before this fourth quarter is up. That probably cost them the game right there. I don't think they were going to win to begin with, but you can't miss an extra point in that situation right there. That is big. 16-13 Chiefs. Unbelievable. How do you miss that? We're at commercial, so I'm going to throw up some Nirvana, Kurt Cobain here. Reflect normally never asks for photos, just wants to support, but we got a little bit of time to squeeze some cool images in. I don't get tired of looking at photos of Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, especially when I can find Kurt when he's a kid. I like to be able to find the rare stuff when he's like in his neighborhood with his friends and his, being able to go that route. But anyone that is a fan of Cobain or Nirvana can appreciate these, which is pretty much everybody in the room for the most part. Kind of really depends. If you're a little older, then you can have that appreciation. Now, if you're young, you may not have the appreciation, but if you're older, 40 and up, then you probably do. Just kind of, just like every other artist, once they ended up becoming famous, Kurt Cobain didn't like that. And you could tell the passion in his voice was gone after a while. Like, when they were just trying to get discovered and they were having fun, and then it just like a lot of people. But then once they started getting notoriety and getting the fame, you could tell it wasn't what he wanted. And you could tell that, he wasn't really enjoying himself anymore, which sucks, but that's what happens with, certain people that are private. They want to stay private, but unfortunately, when you blow up, it's impossible to stay private when you're that talented and you blow up. So, yeah, I saw that on social media. The daughter is going to either be a singer or a professional skateboarder or both. That's some amazing genes. I hear Paisley outside my door. Say, Daddy, I miss you. I hear you, honey. Oh, honey. Oh, yeah. Miss that? hungry? Are you hungry? Are you hungry? You want food? Second down and 6. Mahomes. Nice catch. Go, baby, go, baby, go. The 40, the 30, the 20. First down, Chiefs. That was a back-breaking play there. Nice job by Juju. I need to go get Paisley a snack here in a second. I said, I miss Dad, but I miss food more. The fucking corner slipped. Good girl. All right, Paisley sitting next to Dad now. I've never had so much like joy in my life. Like, I'm so like forever grateful of having, you know, this pup that is just, you know, giving me so much love, and it just feels good. It's like literally the most rewarding thing for me in my entire life. Jazz Chisholm getting them another run, 4-2 Royals in the bottom of the 9th, giving them a little glimmer of hope. I see you, Jazz. You know, but again, I appreciate, you know, every single one of y'all. I put in my, you know, heart and soul to this channel, you know, and have had to reinvent myself over and over. Kareem Hunt, keep going, baby. You know, but to be able, you know, since I don't have kids of my own, you know, Paisley's my daughter, and I've never felt like this type of gratitude and appreciation. And it's just so rewarding, you know, to be able to go out of your way, you know, for a dog, a cat, a child, a friend, and to be able to have that love reciprocated in the most, you know, powerful way that you can. And it's just life-changing. Bottom of the 9th, 1 out, 4-2 Royals, just trying to hang on here. 16-13 Chiefs, first and goal. Touchdown, Chiefs. There he is. Xavier Worthy, too fast, too agile, too much. Touchdown, Kansas City. There he is. That's a guy they should have gotten the ball a little bit more, obviously, in the first half. This one might be over. Extra point is up and good. 23-13, Kansas City. Yeah. And he might have a chance to get another touchdown before the game ends or another big play. So he might be able to get to 200. Yeah, I mean, that's really the equation. Pets, walking, eating better, music, and spending time with quality people, you know, and not having a bunch of toxic, you know, people trying to ruin our day. You know, like I feel like if you just can, you know, do these basic things, you know, it can get, you know, turn your life around. Now, it is going to take effort to change your diet and exercise. That has to be a me thing, you know, because again, there's a lot of things that people would rather do. And again, you know, if you just get to a point where you're not satisfied with where you're at, it's not going to change or get better unless you make an effort. You know, even slow and steady, you know, a little bit of effort can go a long ways. You know, you're not going to see drastic results in weight loss or the way that you feel right away. But again, if you do it for 3 weeks in a row and you make it a habit, a positive habit of 21 days in a row, then you almost feel like you can't live your life without it. Like, I'm not going back to the eating habits that I had back in the day ever again in my life, ever. I'm never, you know, not going to exercise. Like, I'm always going to be, you know, this person the rest of my life. Like, you know, and again, it's like once you end up getting to that plateau of happiness and you know what it takes to get there. Yeah. Do I want to fucking eat pizza and burgers and tacos? And, you know, do I want to drink beer every day? Of course, that's appealing, you know, to a certain degree. But once you start eating healthy and then you eat like the stuff that's not, your body starts to reject it. And you start to understand that it might taste good, but the way that you feel after you eat fast food is terrible. Like you get bloated, you feel lazy. It's just not a good feeling, but again, it will taste good initially, but sometimes you got to make those changes in your life. And I promise you, if you make those, adjustments, your life will be so much better. I mean, look at me. I mean, shit, I was 270, and chances are, if I didn't make changes, I probably would be like almost 300 right now. If I had depression and anxiety and I just was going down that same path, but again, I said enough is enough. And I wanted to make sure that, I lived not only for myself, but, for Paisley and, diabetes in the family and, knowing that I want to be able to live as long as I possibly can. And, to be able to make a positive impact on this channel and help as many people as I can, but I also want to make sure that Paisley has the best life possible. So that starts off with treating myself better. And, Royals got out of a jam and they ended up winning. Final score, Royals 4, Yankees 2. Series is tied up 1-1. Nice. Shep in the building. What's good? All right, Monday Night Raw is completed. Royals and Yankees is completed, and now we're down to the fourth quarter here. What's good, brother? How are you? Yeah, I was going to say, Nikki, it looks very young there. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. See if we can get to 25 or 30 before the game ends here. We're at 23. 2 more to get to 25. We're at 24 now. That was probably Shep. 6 more to get to 30. Let's get there, baby. Yeah, well, she looks incredibly young, but I mean, if she had him when she was 18, then I mean, she's 35 to 40. Young mama worthy. 2nd and 4. It's always cool when you can see moments like that with the mom or the dad or grandpa or grandma. Someone that actually has been there, for the individual to help them get to their dreams to come true. Very cool. Royals fans and Chief fans now are all looking at their phones. Oh, they won. Yes. Shepard's in love. He's, I need to get into that family, he says. Going deep. And of course, Olave catches the ball and it doesn't even count. That's rude. How terrible is that? Now I got to look to see what Olave is at fantasy points. Probably not very many. AM only needed 3.5 to win, and I don't know if he even has that at this point. Damn, Olave's at 3. Holy shit. 2 receptions, 10 yards. Get that man the ball. Now you get the Let's Go Royals chant. Now everyone in the building knows, and they flashed it up on the screen there at Arrowhead. Yep, it's trying to be in the family. Give him a stiff arm. Pow! Trying to holla, holla, holla. First down and 10, down by 10. Carr, 40,000, 85 passing yards. 25th quarterback with 40,000 plus, 250 passing TDs. Too bad he's not really a fit for this team, but I wouldn't want Carr on Tampa. Like I said, he does some things well, and then he struggles at other things, but, Nice tackle there by Nick Bolton. I'm good. I wanted to do a couple reaction videos, but again, I could tell Paisley wanted to kind of snuggle and spend some more time. So anytime, I feel Paisley wants to be able to nap or play, then she's going to come first. So I wanted to get a couple reaction videos up. I did the Bucks and Falcons one on Thursday, night game on Friday, but I wasn't able to do any, but I'll try to do maybe 2 or 3 tomorrow. And then we'll be doing Padres-Dodgers tomorrow, Padres-Dodgers on Wednesday, and then we'll do Hawks and Niners. But I went on 2 long walks. Early morning walks are so nice here in Oregon. It's like 40 degrees, not a lot of people out. Me and Paisley can go on an adventure, and it's just nice, man. And again, I like usually doing the night walks the best because there's nobody out there. In the morning, there might be a few, afternoon, maybe a little bit more. But when we go on a walk at night, it's just like in the neighborhood, it's only me and her. And we typically don't see anybody in the walk, even in a 30, 45-minute walk. We might see someone with their garage open, listening to music or working on a car. But other than that, pass incomplete. Rashid Shaheed, the intended target on 3rd down and long. But I'm good, man. Again, as long as I get my exercise and I'm eating good, eating healthy, I got Paisley by my side. I mean, as long as I got Paisley and my mic, I'm good. I got Paisley, I got you guys, I'm good. And again, some of the other people I've had to kind of cancel out of my life. It's just, I only have so much time and energy that I can give to so many people. And, it's you guys, Paisley and Justin. That's it. I don't have enough time and energy and effort that I can put out more than that. So 4th down and 8. Have you been watching any new shows? I know you work a hell of a lot. Have you been watching like Ancient Aliens or anything on History or Discovery? You got any new shows in the fall lineup that you're watching or anything like that? That's always a nice thing in the fall lineup, where you can get stuff on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, but then you can also get stuff on Discovery, History, Nat Geo. Kind of just depends on what you like. Like Mountain Men just started back up, which is awesome. Law and Order SVU, awesome. So again, there's always going to be something out there depending on what you like, in your free time to watch. So, all right, take care, Megan. Hope you feel a little bit better with that migraine. Thank you so much for your support. Love you and appreciate you. Going long, going deep, and complete. Over the shoulder, Willie Mays type of grab. And couldn't get it done. Carr gets blasted. Now, there's no way that was going to be completed. Take care. He's just snugging up here next to me. Yeah, I also like 911 Lone Star with Rob Lowe. I'm a very unique individual. Like when I'm not doing streams, I might be able to navigate and try to watch a little sports here and there, or I try to watch multiple things at the same time. But usually when the streaming ends, and the walks begin with Paisley and then I eat, I really try to, go through all the different networks to see what's next. What can I watch that's going to entertain me to kind of get me away from the sport world? It's like, sports consumes my life, but again, I like to be able to kind of separate myself from the sports after the streams are done. So that way I can, get a little me time, watch some Alaska programs, watch some sitcoms and, laugh a little bit, and be able to watch people live self-sufficient lives in Alaska, or, watch 911 Lone Star with Rob Lowe and Cass. I love that stuff, man. It's a piece of who I am. And I feel like once I miss some of those shows, I feel incomplete as a human. I feel like a very strong attachment to characters, where I feel like sometimes I'm a part of the show. You have that attachment with certain characters, and I really like to be able to engage and not even be on my phone when I'm watching these shows, which is kind of a hard thing to do nowadays with social media. where it's like, oh, I got this cool show to watch, and then you find yourself on your phone the whole time when the show is on. Sometimes you just got to put the phone down, and just focus. Very hard to do nowadays. But I feel like if you do, you'll reap the benefits of it. Like watching The Bear, watching Shogun. Like if you haven't watched The Bear or Shogun, fucking watch it. It's mind blowing. There's a reason why they won so many goddamn awards this year. Two of the best shows this year. Fantastic. We're at 27. 73 to go. Hand off to Kareem Hunt. Glad I have him in fantasy. $17.3 against a good defense. I like that, baby. Green matchup, neutral matchup, bad matchup, no problem. You're the Chiefs, you get it done. 26% chance bust, and he was only projected for 11.8. Not so fast. 17.3, and he might not be done. Boondocks, yeah. Simpsons and Bob's Burgers have a new season, and they're on their second week, and that just started. Those are very, solid. But again, I'm a cartoon guy, so I'm always going to keep up on those type of things. What a catch by Juju Smith-Schuster, sliding on his back. Great hands. Check his hands for some stickum. Good awareness there. Sliding and still keeping his eyes on the football there. First down and 10. 8 minutes to go. Chiefs up by 10. In firm control this whole game. Kareem Hunt again. Select with another three. Thank you so much. We're at 30 now. 70 to go. Stacks on stacks. Racks on racks. Little cactus jack. Bang, bang. We'll get some more Nirvana Kurt Cobain during the commercial. Thank you so much. And this stream is a little bit better for me than yesterday. Doing a 5-hour stream, that was way too much for me, man. I slept pretty fucking good. I took a long walk, had a big dinner, took a long walk with Paisley, and I needed that sleep last night. My back definitely needed to be stretched out too, with the walk this morning. It's like, man, that was a long time to be in a chair. And I got a very comfortable chair. Like I said, back in the day when I had the black chair, that one wasn't very comfortable. It had like some decent padding on it, but it didn't support my back and my, my overall posture the way that this does. It definitely is a good investment for a good computer chair, let me tell you. And you know what the best price for a computer chair is? Free. And that's what I got mine when I had a neighbor move, and they had like a $300 chair that they were just going to toss into the fucking garbage because they were going to buy a new one. I was like, are you guys going to keep that? I'm like, and then I was on a walk with Paisley, and I was halfway into the walk, or like maybe 10% into the walk. Nice. First down, Mahomes. And I literally walked Paisley and wheeled the chair with me, until I ended up getting home. So I had to like push this chair in the neighborhood for like a half hour because I was only like 10 minutes into my walk. But hey, it's definitely well worth it, man. Especially when you get those chairs that have like that netting in the back. I feel like those ones, the ergonomic chairs that have the netting on the butt and the back, compared to just like a fabric or like padding, like a black leather, those ones aren't comfortable. They end up hurting your back after a while. The leather chairs, you have to get the ones that have like that netting on it. And when you get those are so much more comfortable. I mean, that's what I got right now. Otherwise, I would have had to spend like $200-300 on a chair, and free is a lot better. Kansas City challenging. Too bad I can't use Kareem Hunt next week. He's got a bye, and then he's got the Niners. But with Javon Kinlaw out, the Niner run defense is not the same. It's not like they have Chase Young there. Kinlaw's out. So you can run on the Niners. It's just a matter of, who's calling the plays. So maybe Kareem Hunt will be in the lineup for me in a few weeks. I mean, it's not going to be as impactful necessarily as Pacheco, but if he gets as many opportunities as Pacheco, point-wise, it could be pretty similar. So, Game of Thrones. Man, I'm, certain shows for me, it's like, there's a cult following, but like for me, I can watch Game of Thrones from beginning to end and love it. I, know all the names of the characters and all the houses and everything, but you got to pay attention. Dexter. I can watch that. And they have a new Dexter coming out in December and whatnot. They're going to have one where Dexter is narrating, and it's a younger version of him. A different actor, obviously, and then they also have another one where Dexter's going to be in it. So, and nothing is really going to compare to the original Dexter. That's a gem. Like the cast and him narrating is just top tier. Kansas City with a successful challenge. Hell, I got to try to keep up with you and Shep. Being at the bottom, I'm trying to get to, third place, fourth place. And I think I'm going to get there. I really do. It's not just me, saying that I'm going to get there, but I mean, I've worked hard. I'm always looking at the matchups. I do have to get a little lucky because a lot of, teams are scoring a lot of points. And so it's going to be a little bit of luck. I have to hope that, certain players get injured and, I don't wish injuries on anyone. But like, for example, if Malik Neighbors was healthy and played against me, maybe I would have lost this week against Megan. There's probably a very high probability that I would have lost. So I need a little bit of luck, from some of your guys' players that maybe are out for a week or two. And it just so happens I play you that week because, with not having CMC and Cooper Kupp, it's killing me. And I just hope that I get to use those guys before the season ends. Cooper Kupp sounds like he'll be back sometime between week 7 and 9. And with CMC, I have no idea. I might not even get to use him all year. We'll see. Maybe week 10 and beyond. I might be able to use him for a month. But when I, have an opportunity to use CMC, is he going to look like the healthy CMC of last year? Or if I'm going to start him, is he going to get hurt again? Like, like that first week that CMC is available, is he going to go off to 30 or is he going to get like 5? So I don't know if I would even have the balls and the risk to start CMC the first week back. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. I might have to like evaluate before I start him, Too much of a risk for me to throw out a guy that's a big name guy that get 5 points or less and then I lose, So we'll see. First down and 10, but I think if Neighbors would have played, I would have lost. So I got a little lucky with the concussion with Neighbors and Megan because, again, it's not like I'm beating her by a lot. And if Neighbors would have played like he had, in this first month as being like the number one receiver, I probably would have been fucked and I probably would have lost. And he probably would have put up 20, 30 points against the Hawks, So sometimes it comes down to a little bit of luck too. Yeah, he's having surgery tomorrow morning. And it looks like, but that's pretty much what we thought, that he was going to be out for the year. It's not like anyone really thought that he was coming back with that injury, and especially if we're only doing 14 weeks in the regular season in fantasy and week 15 and 16 is a championship, like the playoffs. NFL is going to be week 17 and 18, but we decided not to do it that way this year. And we'll see how it goes this year. If we like this format, but I'll talk to the people, that are at the top, like Shep and Reflect, and then we can make a decision if we want to go back to best of 2 weeks based off the injuries to give everyone else a fair shot, or we might keep it this format where we just do best of 1 week, and then the season ends in week 16 for us, even though, the NFL will be in week 17 and 18. So, but when in week 17 and 18, sometimes teams will have automatic buys and they'll be playing backups. So we'll see. This is the first year that I'm doing it this way, where we're only doing, best of 1 week. But based on all the injuries, I'm kind of thinking they maybe doing best of 2 weeks would have suited me better and a lot of y'all better too. But we'll see how it goes. Because if you go best of 2 weeks, it gives you an extra couple weeks to make the playoffs, especially if you're starting off slow. So 14 weeks is not a whole lot of time. 16, you feel a little bit better, you know. But still, 14 is, you know, then it would be best of 2 weeks. So eventually it's going to be still playoffs. It's just, you know, do you have 1 week in 1 week or 2 weeks in 2 weeks? Kareem Hunt, flag on the play. Well, they're injured, bro. So it's like you don't even really necessarily need to root against them. They already knew they were going to lose. You got no Taysom Hill. Their starting center is their most valuable piece, and that's out for maybe half the year or longer. So if you don't got Ruiz, you don't got Taysom Hill, you don't got Pete Werner, you're fucked. Like, you're not going to win. And like I said, you started off 2-0 with no injuries, played some easy competition, scored 91 points, and they've been injured since then, and now they're on a 3-game losing streak, just like me in fantasy prior to this week. So you can look good when you're healthy, but when you get injured, you're fucked. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, the Saints are feeling it. The Hawks are feeling it. The Bucks are feeling it. Injuries stink. You're lucky right now for the Falcons. You haven't had injuries. But when you do, you'll find out what it feels like when you start going down in the L column and you're not in the W column. You might be in first place now, but you may not be there the whole year, my guy. And, you know, and the Saints aren't going to come for you. It's going to be Tampa. All right. The Panthers are the worst. The Saints are looking like they're a 500 team, but Tampa Bay, you know, once my defense gets healthy, you know, we're going to get payback on that fucking loss. Kirk Cousins, 509 yards. Okay. Hell, they could have put me back there in the secondary and I could have made more plays. I'm not even a fucking NFL player. But again, you know, you earned it. You won. You deserved it. You know, but again, that was probably the worst coaching that I've seen from Tampa in that game. How do you get an interception with Levante David and not close the game out? You know, you just try to hang on. That's not going to get you the victory. You know, and obviously playing a soft zone for the whole game and not having anyone near your receivers or tight ends and having a 5-yard cushion was terrible. You know, like Todd Bowles should be fired after that fucking game, dude. That was fucking bullshit. But again, you know, 509 yards. You guys earned it. You won. You know, but we're coming for you. And we're still coming for the crown. Remember, you guys haven't won the NFC South since like 2016. We've won it for 3 years in a row, and we're going for number 4. But, you know, I do think that Atlanta can make the playoffs, but you guys can be a wild card team, and you can be little brother. I'm big brother still. You guys won first game, but we'll see who wins the second game. But it'll come down to both of our teams, and if the Saints get healthy, they'll be in the mix. But it's looking like it'll be Tampa Bay and Atlanta, more than likely. Yeah, but you haven't had the same kind of injuries to our players. So, and you haven't had the same kind of impact injuries as the Saints. It's like you haven't had your starting center go out. That's a big impact guy. You haven't had anyone as big as, you know, Antoine Winfield Jr., the best safety in football, out. So you've had some, but not as impactful as the guys that we've had. You know, it's not like Kirk Cousins is out. It's not like Drake London's out. It's not like Bijan is out. It's not like Mooney's out. You know, it's not like Judon is out. You know, it's not like Jesse Bates III is out or Justin Simmons. Now, when those guys come out, then come talk to me, you know, but it's not like you've had your big impact guys out, right? Like, you know, let's be clear. You know, if you had Jesse Bates III and Judon out and then you lost, then there's the reason. But you have pretty much had all your top tier guys healthy in this run. You know, and if a couple balls bounce your way, you're 5-0. But also if a couple balls bounce the other way, you're 0-5. So again, you got to be thankful you're 3-2, coming off 2 wins against the Saints and the Bucks. But it's not like it's been, you know, easy breezy cover girl. You know, again, you guys have gotten a little lucky. You know, and again, you could be 5-0. You also could be 0-5. You know, you guys have literally won every game at the end. It's not like you've blown anybody out. You've barely won, you know, every single game. So let's make that clear too. You haven't been blowing people out. You've been barely winning. But a win is a win, and I'll give you that, right? Regardless if you win by 1 or if you win by 20, a win is a win. And you guys have played great ball. And it's nice to be able to see Atlanta relevant. I know the Saints fans are mad, you know, but again, I hate losing the way that we did. I haven't felt a stinging loss like that for Tampa since Cooper Kupp made a game-winning catch when we were trying to go back-to-back. And then maybe when the Ducks lost to the Huskies twice. Those were like the last times I think I felt the sting and the pain, you know. But other than that, you know, you guys earned it. So Yeah, I mean, you guys will get your blowout. You guys got fucking talent, top to bottom, and again, Jesse Bates III is amazing. Simmons is amazing. Judon is amazing. Those three guys make everyone better on the defense, and the defense is, Alford, and you got many pieces, on that defense. So, and again, you used to not really have any, or like one or two. So now to have like half of your defense be like notable names, that's why you guys are playing much better. Now it's like you have confidence on that side of the ball. And Kirk is a hell of a lot better than Desmond Ridder. I mean, this is the best quarterback that you've had since Matt Ryan. So, nice to be able to see Mooney and Drake London actually making the most of their opportunities. And really the only dud so far has probably been Bijan, because he doesn't get the ball enough. Even Kyle Pitts got into the mix finally. But, Pitts and Bijan have been ignored, and everyone else is feeding and eating. But eventually, Bijan will have his monster game of like 30 points, and Kyle Pitts will have a monster game of like 20, where he gets like 2 tutties, and Bijan goes for, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns or something crazy. So give it time. You just have to wait to play some shit teams, and then, that'll end up happening. 26-13, Chiefs. Yeah, Ritter's garbage. But I could have told you that. That whole draft with Malik Willis and Ritter, first down and 10. It's like they don't even have Carr in the game anymore. Pass incomplete. Olave still at 3 points in fantasy? Is he? Wow, Olave is at 3, and AM, that was on the channel earlier, only needed 3.5. Oh my God. Can you imagine losing in fantasy when you only need Olave to get 3.5 and he's got 3? I don't know what I would do. 3 points for Olave is ridiculous. And I get it. You got, Shaheed as a deep threat, but that is a bad play calling not to get one of your best receivers involved, and that's why the Saints have problems. Hayner. And like, why is Hayner in the game? Get Rattler in the game. I'd lose my mind. Olave, 3 points, and you need 0.5, and he might not get it, even though they got the ball right here. He needs 1 catch. Will Olave get the 1 catch to get that number? It's like you beating me by 0.5, just needing that 1 catch by that one player, and you fucking got it. AK-41 with the little short gain on 3rd down and 1. First down, Saints. I still can't believe that shit happened, but I can, but I can't, It's like, what are the chances of that one player getting the catch for like 5 yards and then you actually fucking got it? Incomplete. It was Michael Pittman Jr. And even with the 3 points from Olave, Double E is going to win by 10. I'm going to beat Megan by 20. Zini's going to beat Matt by 60. Reflect with a big win on Sarah. 55-ish, 60. And then Shep beating Captain Oreo by 20. Fantasy is cruel sometimes. Hayner. Sliding to the 50. All right, 2-minute warning. I'm going to get Paisley a little bit of food. I'll be right back. All right. Gave my Paisley pup a little hug and kiss, wrapped her in a blanket, gave her a little snack. I think she's ready to go for a long walk. And when you end up doing a 5-hour stream, these 3-hour and 15-minute streams are like fucking easy breezy cover girl, man. That one yesterday was ridiculous. I probably should have just started the stream when the game started or like slightly before. But the one delay that we thought was going to be 20 minutes turned into like an hour and 45 minutes. And that made that fucking stream way too long. But I do appreciate all of y'all that ended up hanging out for either a part of that stream or a good chunk of it. So. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, if we were in a league where we had shittier players, then that wouldn't happen. But again, out of the 8 years that I've done this fantasy league, by far, this is the most talent that I've seen from top to bottom ever. Again, I normally finish in the top 3. I never lose in the first month. And, I ended up going 1-3. It's never happened to me before. I got 65 fucking moves on the wire and it's week 5. And sometimes I've made that many moves even when I was 4-0, but sometimes it's just bad luck. Sometimes just injuries. Sometimes it's bad matchups. Sometimes guys just not hitting, and sometimes you get everyone's best effort, which happened to me. I got the best effort out of Reflect, Chief, and Shep, and I got the most points scored against me in the first 4 weeks. To me, that's not fair, but it's fantasy. So, it's like, why did I deserve to get the fucking everyone's A+ effort in the first month? But that's just how it goes sometimes. Yeah. Hopefully we can get you a dub, And again, I mean, I would have been right there with you. And again, if Megan had Neighbors playing in her lineup as the number 1 receiver, I would have been right there with you. I would have went 4 straight losses in a row. I would be 1-4. And I got a pretty good team. But it shows you if you can't use your number 1 pick. And also, we both have had problems with our quarterback and our star players. What happened? You had to drop Mahomes. I had to drop AR, right? That's not ideal. I had McCaffrey and Olave with the drop. That could have been big there for fantasy people. But I had McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp, and it fucked me. And it fucked me at quarterback and no numbers at tight end. So not only did I not get to use CMC and Cooper Kupp, I got 0 production out of quarterback and tight end. I've never had 4 pieces out of 9 give me nothing. And that's why we have the records that we have. Breece Hall hasn't really been good enough for you. And anytime you end up picking, guys like McCaffrey and Breece, that'll teach us a lesson because you're never going to pick Breece ever again, and I'm never going to pick McCaffrey ever again. We're going to go wide receivers first, and that's probably the smart way to go. Going for running back first, you're asking for a loss, But if you end up getting wide receiver like Reflect, yeah, they may get hurt. But I think I would rather have a Reflects team with like CeeDee Lamb and Rashee Rice and Nico Collins and fucking having McCaffrey, fucking bum, so, and he was great last year, but of course I didn't have him in fantasy, so it didn't matter to me, So Olave is going to end with 3, huh? Golly. It ain't my fault. Did I do that? It ain't my fault. Did I do that? 2nd down and 11. Well, that's what, and that's what happens when you have, these pieces in the league. You have to have big numbers from big players. And when you end up getting, just barely 10 points, across the board, it's not going to cut it. It might have been able to cut it when we had a shittier league where there was like a bunch of people in the league that weren't good, where you might be able to skate by getting 100, or like 90. But with this fucking league, I've never seen anything like it, man. And again, the people at the top, they've earned it. And they've gotten a little lucky too. And then, but again, now as you've seen, even though Reflects in first place, now the injuries are starting to hit, right? He didn't have any injuries the first couple of weeks like that were major, maybe Njoku, but now Mixon, right? Rashee Rice, Eco, so it's like now he's down to just CD, but still has Montgomery and he still has, 2 good quarterbacks. So you still have enough pieces and obviously, having a nice, options on the bench, that you can plug into your starting lineup with good drafting that you did is definitely helping you out tremendously too. Final score, Chiefs 26, Saints 13. But again, the teams that aren't injured yet, guess what? It will happen. It happens to everyone. It just depends on how massive of the injuries are. And if you get injuries to your top, 2 or 3 picks, a lot of times you're fucked. And I haven't been able to recover, but I'm starting to. So, final score: Chiefs 26, Saints 13. Love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. I need to go and take Paisley on a walk and to eat a little bit, but I'm going to see if I can find 1 or 2 more Nirvana Kurt Cobain photos for Reflect for his last no-no, and then we'll call it a night. I hear Paisley barking in the living room. She says, Dad, let's go. Yeah. But in your Colts league, you probably don't have people that are as smart as this league. Again, if you have people that, luck has something to do with it part of the time, but also, again, drafting well and also picking up guys on the wire. And I think it showed you these last 2 years, you haven't been doing enough on the wire, and it's hurting you. And you have to be able to make those moves. You can't have too many guys out and just be content with your bench. And that's what's happened to you these last 2 years, if I'm being honest. You haven't been doing enough moves. You've been too content, with just your starters and just letting it, roll the dice. And then now with the injuries, catching up, that's really what's hurt you. Now, if you've been a little bit more active on the wire last year and this year, I guarantee you wouldn't have the record that you have. You might not be at the top, but you would probably be more likely in the middle, with a couple wins and a couple losses. So that's a lesson to be learned. If you don't act on the wire, right, you're going to lose, especially in a league with a lot of intelligent people. You got me scooping up every fucking piece in the middle of the night. So again, if you're not making the proper moves on the bench, you will lose. You're not going to be able to compete with the top dogs unless you're making moves. Now, if you ended up having a great draft, that can help, for a certain degree. But when the injuries start piling up, you have to be able to be active on the wire every single week. And if you don't, you will pay the consequences, unfortunately. That's just how it goes. You have to keep upgrading the roster every single week. Wide receiver depth, running back depth, switching up defenses and kickers. Just being content is, a recipe for disaster. And hopefully you'll be a little bit more active on the wire. And it's not all about name recognition. You have to, sometimes take chances and take some risks and move guys, that normally maybe you wouldn't move, And hopefully things will get a little bit better. But I don't like seeing anybody struggle. Like I said, it's not just Captain Oreo and Sarah. I was right there with you, but I'm just slowly but surely, trying to catch up. But you got to think, if I didn't make 65 fucking moves, do you think I would have been able to win this game against Megan? No. I probably would be 1-4, 1-5, 1-6. I don't know. I would have to wait till Cooper Kupp comes back. Hopefully that he ends up, putting up big numbers, and then I can double up with him and Mike Evans. But, not having reliable pieces in the lineup is a fucking killer. So, but hopefully things will get better for everyone in the league. And then for the people that are at the top, congratulations, man. Reflect, you're doing your thing. Shep, you're doing your thing. And I'm coming for you guys. And again, there's going to be other people like Chief Will Chief and a few others and Zini that are going to be up and down that are coming for you as well. And again, I would assume Chief Will Chief and Zini and a few others are going to be in that 3rd, 4th, 5th place, more times than not, but Doggy Dog climbing from, 9th place and then 7th place and then 6th place. And then lo and behold, in about a month, you might see your boy in 4th place. And then I'll be right in perfect position for the rest of the year, especially if I get CMC and Cooper Kupp healthy. So we'll just wait and see. But I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. Keep your head up, Sarah. Keep your head up, Captain Oreo. Hopefully things will get a little bit better. Shout out to the Chiefs. Tough loss for the Saints. I'll be live tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific for the Dodgers and Padres on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I might be able to pump out a reaction video or two tomorrow based on how I'm feeling, and we'll do that. And then we got the Seahawks and the Niners on Thursday for Thursday Night Football. Love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. And I got one question for you. Who you know talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics. Appreciate your help, Sarah, filling in for the mod duties. Shout out to Sarah, Shep, Reflect, and everyone else in the room. Love you and appreciate you. And I got one question for you. Who you know talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I'm out. Gang.